Welcome back to another episode of New Cow Corner. Today, guys, my guest I know needs no introduction, but for the sake of being correct or technology correct, interviewing etiquette, I'm going to introduce Mr. Brian Butler of Altitude Exotics.
Thanks, sir.
So honored to have you here. Like, it's really, I'm kind of speechless, was 8 years ago, just a guy that got into geckos and looked at all these big breeders doing all these crazy things with genetics and genes. Like, they were people that were stars, they were out of my league. I mean, why would they ever want to talk to me? I was nervous to ask questions. I went down this bumpy road of trying to figure everything out myself. And the whole time, I mean, all of you guys have been so polite and down to earth and welcoming and accepting. It's very humbling to be able to have this conversation with you, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on, man. It's kind of echoing what you just said. There's so many good people in this industry. It's always nice to actually get to talk to people face to face and get rid of the internet BS that comes up sometimes and get to know how good people are.
Absolutely. So I know most podcasts, people would start off and say, introduce us and tell us how you got into this. But I think that I would prefer to start this interview off with asking, who is Brian Butler? Who is Brian? What do you do? Tell us about you, your life, your passions, things you find joy in, places you've been. Tell us about you.
Man, that's a big question. The short answer is I'm just a dude that plays with lizards all day. I constantly am running into things that happen that feel way too big for me, or getting an introduction like you just gave, and it is kind of like an out of body experience where I'm just sitting here being but I'm just I was just some kid that liked geckos, and I originally sat in a closet and played with geckos my whole life. I didn't go out much. I didn't have a whole lot of friends. I just kind of hung out at home and hung out with my lizards, and I still kind of feel like that.
It's I get it, I guess. I understand, but it's good to hear, because so many people, and I feel... Seriously? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Really?
It says recording resumed.
Can you hear me better?
Yeah, now it's good.
Well, probably something with the internet. I use Riverside. I don't know any other platform.
I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. It just popped up and said I missed a call. I wonder if we having a call.
That's probably what it was.
All right, so I bet we just lost a whole chunk of that.
It'll edit. I can fix it or whatever. But that's good to hear, that people in this hobby of your stature started the way so many other people do. It's inspirational. I often, I repeat myself all the time, but I always, say on the podcast, I genuinely believe that the little girl with one gecko is just as important to this hobby, in no offense, as you are, Brian. The girl is just as important with one animal, and I hate that people out there feel that they're inferior, right? That they don't level up to the standards of the hobby, and they kind of seclude themselves, and people are afraid to ask questions, and everyone needs to know that we all pretty much started the same way, with an interest. We saw an animal that sparked an interest, and we wound up getting one, right? Nobody dives into, at least not that I've met or know yet, a full-blown successful gecko company. You don't just wake up one day and say, boom, I own Altitudes. That's it. Buying it tomorrow. It's not we all...
If somebody made the right offer, they could have that opportunity, but so far nobody has.
Belize is calling your name, huh?
No, I agree. I see it as an ecosystem, right? If you look at a natural ecosystem, there's small animals, there's big animals, there's giant trees, there's tiny blades of grass, but the whole thing works in concert, right? I don't exist in the gecko world ecosystem without that girl that buys one gecko. If those people don't exist, I don't exist.
Full analogy.
If breeders aren't selling geckos, then people can't have just one pet gecko. There's a lot of symbiosis I see there, where nobody's more important than another, because we're all making this ecosystem work together.
Absolutely. It's just unfortunate, because I don't feel everybody feels that way. I think that's very unfortunate. Especially in today's market. And I'm always trying to make humor of it. I try to defuse conflict with humor. I mean, it's just who I am. But I feel lately there's been quite a bit of tension with new breeders in the market, right? Like there's some people out there that are like, we don't need these breeders. I was making more money and there was less people in the hobby, and there's this and there's that, and the price of geckos. And I mean, I guess it's perception, but I'm on the I'm of the camp that unfortunately for guys like yourself or other people that we're selling animals for one price and have to adjust prices. I feel like with an adjustment and a correction in a hobby in a climate like we were, you're kind of growing the hobby, right? When you make these animals more accessible to more people have them. It's common sense. More people have them. The more people have them, the more people are working with them, the more chances we have of discovering new genes and traits. There's more eyeballs on more projects. I mean, you can get a cat and dog for free from the pound, right? Like that's the biggest pet industry there is cat and dogs, right? Yeah. Like they're free everywhere you go. Plenty to talk about, plenty to do, and plenty of people making money all the way around on dogs and cats. We just have to make little adjustments. Life in general is all about little adjustments, which is a great segue into my next question to you. For someone like yourself that's been doing this for so damn long, how has it been? How have you handled and managed the ups and the downs of the market for the length you've been in them? How have you managed to stay relevant and stay successful through all of these ups and downs?
I think a huge part of why I've been able to find success is I've always been very long distance vision. It's one of the things that drives me crazy about our industry that you don't see in other industries, because the barrier to entry to breed geckos and call yourself a business is low. Most, if not all, gecko breeders aren't a business. They're just breeding geckos and hoping they don't get busted on taxes. Like they're not businesses. Some are. There's plenty that are legitimate businesses. But you need two geckos and a Facebook page, and all of a sudden you're a breeding company, right?
The logo, I know. God.
Right. If you applied that to any other industry, restaurants, you can't have $40, $50, $60 worth of investment in a Facebook page and open a restaurant. And because that barrier of entry is so low, there's a lot of people that get entered and then they have no long-term vision. And they just think, well, I have my geckos, I've made my Facebook page, I've got a business name now, so that it's going to work, right? And it doesn't work. And, in most industries, those people would never even get started. They wouldn't get a foot in the door because it's just not logistically feasible like it is with breeding geckos. That's been part of my success is I've always had long-term vision. I don't ever make decisions that are going to be good for me right now if I can make a better decision that's going to be good for me over the next 5 years. A huge example of that right now is Palm Street. Palm Street is the new hot thing in the gecko world. And to be very clear, I'm a huge Palm Street proponent. I work very closely with the higher-ups at Palm Street. I love their app. What I don't understand is there's breeders, established breeders, that are treating Palm Street like a going out of business sale. They're going live 2, 3, 4 times a week. They're just liquidating everything they have on Palm Street because they're making quick sales, and it's great. They're making a ton of money right now. That's not going to work in 5 years. Like I'm working with Palm Street to create an ecosystem that can last. That can be a meaningful, not just for like generating sales numbers for the sellers, but a meaningful part of the reptile community for a generation or more. Like I want this to be something that really changes our industry for the better, not just something that makes some of us a bunch of money in the next 6 months.
Sure, and it absolutely can be. I always pride myself in being a consumer and having this consumer point of view from an industry I also am privileged to see the other side of, right? Like I breed hundreds of geckos, make hundreds of geckos. I don't sell geckos, right? It just not something I do. My joy and thrill comes from giving them to people or trading them or doing whatever I do with my animals. Real passion is creating.
Yeah.
And but I'm a big buyer, right? I buy things, I look for deals, I look for sales, I'm looking for who's got the edge, the angle. But all of my friends and everybody I deal with are sellers. Like that's what they do is sell. So I get to see both sides. And with Palm Street, it's interesting that you what you say altogether is interesting. I absolutely commend and understand, hugely respect your vision for Palm Street. However, you're correct when you say that not a lot of people are looking at it that way. They're looking at it for quick sales. I think that they're taking that purge word and putting, a definition and, what their definition is to it, and like dumping everything they have. And, like, these are all the animals I couldn't sell at a show or aren't buying online. I'm going to dump them for real low and just get them out of my inventory, which for them, I guess, for the instant is good, right? Like you said, it's good for now, but not sustainable action, right? Like, it's not something that can, you can not ethically, I guess, sustain for a long time. Like, I mean, you shouldn't really be making a bunch of animals that you're willing to sell for $25 a pop. I mean, maybe you are, maybe you're not. I don't know.
I mean, there's ethical questions up and down, just breeding animals for profit, having a business based on animals. Like, that's a whole topic I think we could get into on its own, is the ethics of animal breeding, which I certainly juggle with at times, for sure, doing what I do. But, with Palm Street, I don't hold it against anybody who's shifted their business to be largely on Palm Street. Like, it makes a lot of sense. It's easy. When you used to have to run markets on multiple marketplaces and run ads and try and create social media content to make a buzz around your animals and van shows. And now you can go live on Palm Street and sell 4 times as many geckos with almost no effort.
Absolutely.
Like, even if your prices go down, it is hard to argue that it's worth it for a lot of people. But that's what I mean when I say they don't have this long-term vision. Like, that's not a business plan that's going to lead to you selling geckos as a business in 10 years. It's just not. It can be a piece of your business plan right now. Like, it is certainly a piece of my plans. It's going to be a piece of my plans for some time.
Yeah.
But that can't be your entire business operation. You're not going to be here long if it is.
I mean, again, there's so many things that I could say. And I'm not judging anybody. So, guys, make that clear. I'm not judging anybody. Do what you do. I want everyone to find their niche. Like, I want everyone to find their niche and do what puts food on your table or makes your heart tick. Like, honestly, like, I'm not bashing anybody. But when you compare, like you said, the overhead, and I often bring this up in podcasts as well with other guests, for someone like yourself, a vendor that goes to multiple shows, travels all over the country, sets these things up, puts on these beautiful displays, and you look at Palm Street, is the overhead you're cutting alone from selling just the same amount, more animals, if you want my opinion. Your audience is broader, right? Like, instead of going to one show in Chicago, you now have an audience. Arguably, I don't know if Palm Street broadcasts to the world, but in theory, say the world, right? Like, you can have someone in Korea, Japan, Canada, California, Montana, Nevada. All these people are buying an animal from you, where at the show, you're getting the people at the show, right? So you have a bigger audience. If you advertise properly, more eyes, less overhead. I was just saying this, I don't remember who my guest was, but I personally believe that if shows care about their future, shows are going to need to make some adjustments. Shows need to level up somehow, because these online platforms are going to make it very hard for them, in my opinion, right? Like, not saying that everybody should just do sales online. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying that I don't appreciate shows. I appreciate going to a show and seeing an animal, but when you're looking at it live on Palm Street and someone showed me every angle of the animal, upside down, inside and out, just like I technically would at a show, and I don't have to travel and I don't got to do all this. I mean, it's, I'm just concerned. My local show out here in White Plains, New York, has been there. I've been going there since the 80s, 88. I've been going to the same reptile show. And when I go to that show and I look at the vendors and the people that have stopped vending because of other sources they have to sell their animals now, and less travel, and just like I said, the overhead in general is less. It's concerning. I'm not a vendor, so I don't know all the aspects of vending. But my point in bringing this topic up in general is that it could get hairy for shows if another platform or two popped up. If another platform or two popped up and started selling animals online, and why go to a show?
I both agree and in some way disagree with you. I personally don't feel as if it's concerning. Like, I wouldn't use that word. I wouldn't see it as hairy. There are shows that are going to fail. But again, I kind of look at it like an ecosystem. Like that's not concerning or sad, or it's evolution. Like the market is changing. Palm Street has arrived. Morph market is huge. There are better online sales platforms than ever. And the old school version of reptile shows is no longer relevant.
They need to
Showrunners, yeah, if they're not going to evolve, they are going to go away. We're already seeing some of that with shows like the Flora Fauna Show and the All American Reptile and Plant Expo that are incorporating plant vendors and other forms of, live sales, plants, animals, crystal. Those shows have been a breath of fresh air. They're better than anything we've had out here in the West in a long time. People are making the adjustments, but it's not going to be some of the old guard will make adjustments and live on, and some of them won't, and that's the way business and life works.
For sure. That's what I meant. I didn't want to be like all doom and gloom, like the shows are gonna fail. But that was exactly my point that you just explained. You articulated it much better than I could. Is that shows need to evolve because the old way isn't going to work. You need to upgrade and level up. Was my point, because
and that's exactly what I was saying with.
I went to Flora Fauna the second year they had it. In my eyes, I mean, that's just what Gabby and Brett did. Like they took your typical show that is already full of crested geckos and ball pythons, and instead of complaining and saying, okay, we're not going to be part of it, they kind of supersized it, right? Like they just made it better, like all in New Caledonia, across the table, plants, everything. Amazing show. And I don't really know how to explain it, but if shows would, not that they don't, but if they would do that, then I don't think there's a concern. Because again, my point and my viewpoint is from being a consumer, right? Like I'm looking at it from a consumer. And I often ask, I ask myself, and I love shows, again, like I said, not to be misunderstood by anyone. I love shows. I love going in the flesh. I love the action of going, the excitement, being somewhere else. I love it. But when it comes to buying animals, why go to a show? What's my benefit of going to a show rather than sitting down on Palm Street and scrolling through X amount of breeders, or going on Morph Market and having 5 dozen breeders as opposed to the 1 dozen that'll be at my show?
Exactly. It's evolution. It's thinking through it in my head. I'm gonna pick on the Daytona Beach show only because they were the original. That is where reptile shows started. He founded the idea of the Reptile Expo. And that was bred out of, they used to go to zoological conventions, and then when CITES was introduced and zoos started getting in trouble for buying smuggled animals, they kicked the reptile breeders out of the zoological conventions. So Randy down there started the Daytona Beach show. That was the original reptile show. It's awesome. like I said, that's the only reason I'm going to pick on him a little bit, very gently. Going to Daytona Beach now is not much different than going to Daytona Beach in 1995 was. Like, it's the same show. There's nothing different. It's a bunch of breeders and vendors. It's gotten more elaborate, and breeders have much better setups, and the advertising's gotten better. But the bare bones of it, it's the same basic structure that it's been for 40 years now. Like, at some point, that's not going to work anymore. And then if you look at what the All-American show or Flora Fauna, I think their biggest selling point is, they incorporate plants, but for me, their biggest selling point is it's a one-day show. You can only buy animals and plants on Saturday, and Sunday's all workshops. And it's not like the old Repticon workshop where we put out some folding chairs and Bubba's Petting Zoo with the biggest snake in the Repticon in South Tennessee comes out and tells you about snakes. They have a terrarium building workshop. They have a photography workshop. They have an arts and crafts workshop with Emily Burke. They had a geode cracking workshop this last year. That's a level of evolution that has been sorely missed for a long time. The All-American show has incorporated a level of prestige, and what is the word I'm looking for? They're a bit more picky about who their vendors are. They're a bit pickier about high-quality vendors. They do a great job getting amazing plant setups in there. Like, it's an evolution. Those are the shows that are going to push the boundary, and the shows that haven't changed in 40 years, they're going to need to change. Yeah, I know they're moving around. They do them they started here in Denver. They do one in Overland Park, Kansas City now. They do one I want to say they have one in North Carolina and one in Charlotte. Yeah, I did one just a few weeks ago. Yeah, it was incredible. So, this was another, I have constant, like I can't shut my brain off.
Respect it. Me too, brother.
I would tell people if I had like 4 of me, the amount of stuff I could get done would be incredible. For this last show, they brought in Snake Discovery. They brought Emily down. And, the turnout at the last few shows they've done here has been really good. And then it was just leveled up again because they flew them in. So I look at that and I go, all right, the Daytona Beach show, they still do good, but it's not the world premiere reptile show that it used to be. But also in Florida, like a month later, they have Animal Con, which is just all the world's biggest animal YouTubers get together. And that's a huge event. Why is there not an Animal Con / reptile show somewhere in the works where you fly in, this year's panel of 6 huge animal themed YouTubers, and they put on a panel discussion Saturday night after a 6-hour reptile show the next day. And then they have meet and greets all day Sunday in the reptile show. Like, combine things together. Let's evolve. Let's add. Give me a reason, right? As a consumer, like you said, I can sit on Palm Street and shop geckos all day. I can swipe through Morph Market all day. Give me a reason to get up on a Saturday, drive to Orlando, and go to a show. Because going to do Palm Street in person isn't going to get me out there anymore.
Exactly my point. Exactly what I was trying to say. It is what it is. Again, like yourself, my gears are always turning, right? And I'm always asking myself, like, when it comes to our animals, right, we're always trying to level up, right? We're always looking for the next cool morph, the next cool combination, the next everything. Like, why aren't we doing everything like that? I mean, that includes vending and sales and shows, right? We should always be leveling up. Like, when I see Tinley, I always be like, oh man, look at this display or that display. Great, that's awesome. We should, right? Like, every show should be a top the next one type of thing, right? Like, people got super complacent and just have animals on tables. And I get if that's what you can afford or your level of where your current state where you're at in the hobby, but we shouldn't always just be trying to evolve our animals. If you're in sales, you should be trying to, and you do it well too, and I can see it with Flawless. And I don't know if it's something you guys have been doing as a mentorship or just you guys being friends, or you guys are just gotten super close because of your similar styles, but you guys are always taking things to the next level, man. You have leveled up animals on a table to Fortune 500 status shit, right? Like, you guys have taken gecko selling and turned it into businesses. This is a gecko business. When you think of Altitude, you think of Flawless, and there's some others, but these are gecko businesses.
Yeah.
You're always one-upping yourself. It's not about the competition. You guys are super respectful of everybody else, but it seems like you have this ongoing battle amongst yourselves, like with yourself and then with themselves, to do better. And I think more people need to take that, and imply that in their lives, into their hobbies, into their brands, right? Like, be better yourself. So, I mean, it's great that you've come up with a new gene and new morphs and new combinations and your animals look better than they did last year. That's great. But your display, your business, your brand, your image needs to follow.
Yeah, I agree. That kind of echoes something that I know Flawless had said. They have, they do so well with their inspirational content and their mentoring and all of that they do. I know they're big into saying, like, treat it like a job. Like if you're out there telling the world you're a breeder, this is what you do, this is your business, this is my company name, yada yada yada. Treat it like a job. There's so many people that don't treat it like a job. That was something that was very apparent to me. I remember my very first reptile expo. I was 22, I think. The first expo I vended, like, I had a banner. At the time, just having a banner was like a big deal. I had a banner made up. I had display cases, so I didn't just have deli cups on the table. Like, I was trying to take it real serious because at that point, like, I knew very early on, I want this to be my career. And I was baffled when I got there. And the guys in the booth next to me, like, we were contact high all day because they would just go out and smoke in the back. Like, it just reeked of weed, which, like, if that's your thing, that's perfectly fine. But I'm sitting there like, I'm at work, and this dude is reeking of weed, literally sitting on an igloo cooler, pulling beers out all day, drinking beer, while he's trying to sell his corn snakes to people. And I'm just looking at him like, bro, we're not doing the same thing here.
Yeah.
Like, you're here to hang out with your buddies on a Saturday. I'm here to build a career out of this. Like, we're not the same.
Yeah, that's... I mean, I hope that people aren't... I mean, I'm probably doing it more now than ever, I'm not judging anybody that smokes pot or drinks. I don't. I have my reasons, but I don't judge. But however, I will say that if you're at a reptile show where we should all be trying to inspire the next generation with children
Yep.
and families, it's not appropriate. It's not cool. It's not.
I mean, for so many reasons, I was just kind of baffled.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like you said, if this is your version of I'm going to hang out with my friends on a Saturday, I don't care what people do when they go to hang out with their friends. But for me, this is my job.
Yeah,
even at
for a
that point, I
business.
thought this is my job, and I'm trying to educate people and like having kids hold my geckos. And yeah, it was just it was a really early lesson that made it very apparent to me that I was looking at this a lot differently than a lot of other people were. That's one of the things that I love now is there's a lot more people that look at it that way. There's a lot of businesses, there's a lot of business people in the reptile world. And
For sure.
I think that shows. I think it's the community is better for it.
From a consumer standpoint, it's very clear. To me, I can walk into a room, scroll the internet, and I can tell who takes what seriously and who doesn't. It's very easy for me as a consumer to see who's a business and who's just in it for fun, which again is not
right.
wrong.
So I want to make it clear, like I talked about earlier, I see it as an ecosystem. Like there is a full place in the ecosystem for people that just want to hang out with their friends and talk geckos on Saturday, and people that want to breed as a hobby and don't take it serious as a job. And
for sure.
And every step along the line, people that have 3 geckos and breed them just to see what it's like, and people that have 1 gecko. There's room for people that have 100 geckos and don't breed a thing. They just want a lot of pets. Like there's a spot for everybody. I'm not judging any person. I'm just speaking to my experience. You're asking about me. Like that's where my mindset is. I'm not a hobbyist. I'm not somebody that just likes pets.
For sure. That's one of the things I like with this podcast. I like our listeners to understand is that there is room for everyone. Again, guys, the little girl with 1 gecko is just as important as the breeder out there producing 5,000 a year. Everyone matters is what the point is. Without one of us, we don't exist. It's like Brian said, we all make up part of this ecosystem. It's if hobby breeding and hanging out with your buddies is your thing, guys, please don't let me be. Don't take anything I'm saying personal, because I'm definitely not bashing you. We are talking about business aspect, and building a business, like a real business, tax ID numbers, like business, which is separate than being a hobby breeder. And again, not judging anyone.
Yeah, they're all great. Like, there's times that I wish I could go back to being a hobby breeder. It's like I get tired sometimes of running a lot of responsibility. I bet. I don't want to do profits and loss sheets and deal with payroll and taxes and filing on time. Like sometimes I wish I could have one walk-in closet full of my 60 geckos, and I spend all my time on old forums talking to people that were my friends about geckos, and it was fun. There's a part of me that really misses that, how much just carefree fun it used to be.
So let's, I know you've talked about it in other podcasts, and you don't have to get super elaborate with it, but just for conversation purposes, how did Altitude Exotics evolve? How did this whole thing transpire? Your first gecko, where'd you get it? When did you know you wanted to turn it into a business? And how did it all lead up to that first show you did in 22?
Yeah, so I was in music prior to getting into geckos. I played in a few different bands, had some... Yeah, that was in a number of heavy metal bands over the years, only one of which ever really got any traction. I played in several, but one that was doing, pretty good. Was doing pretty good for a while there. Cool. It's kind of usually I just leave it as, the music career ended and I got into geckos, but I usually don't get into the full story, so I'll give you the whole story.
Exclusive, guys, we got an exclusive.
Right, I don't know if I've ever really dug into this whole story before. Have you heard of the band 5 Finger Death Punch?
Of course.
So their singer, Ivan Moody, he's born and raised in Colorado. He originally started a band here called Motograder. And he was singing for this band, Motograder, that was getting some traction and doing pretty good things. And then he got the offer to go play with 5 Finger Death Punch. All the guys in that band were already well established from other groups. They were trying to build a super group of sorts, needed a singer, and they recruited Ivan to go play it. My band at the time was kind of like the next level down from where Motograder was, and coming up through the ranks and starting to get some touring and traveling and everything done. And when Ivan left Motograder to go sing for 5 Finger, Motograder then poached our singer. to go sing for them.
Oh,
And
shit.
then we then tried to, poach someone else's singer or find somebody, and limped along for about a year and a half more before it all kind of fell apart. And then me and some of the other people from that band and friends limped along for a few more years, trying to get
What did you
a
play?
break
In drum, bass, guitar?
drums and vocals. Yeah. It got to a point that I had gotten into the geckos. Then I had the girlfriend, a girl that I was seeing at the time, had kind of drugged me into a PetSmart, just wanting to go look at stuff one day, and we ended up looking at the crested geckos. Had never even heard of one. It kind of snowballed from there. That's the story I always tell, is this famous story of a girlfriend drugged me against my will into Petco, and I got a gecko, and then a friend told me how she was going to breed hers, and I went, oh, hell, you can breed these? I got to try it. And that's the story I always tell. The other side of the story is about a year and a half into breeding, I don't even think I had really coined or founded Altitude Exotics. I was just like, I'm going to breed these for a living. I'd figured out people sell them online, and was like, yeah, this is like, I'm going to build a career out of this. This sounds cool. I've always been weird and never wanted a normal job. So I had kind of decided, like, I'm going to make a go at this. I think I could breed lizards for a living. And then here comes my old singer. His name's Mike Woodruff. He comes back around on tour with Motograder, and we threw a big house party when they came through Denver on tour. After their show, I threw a big house party for everybody, and the band at one point had come to me and said, hey, we need a second drummer, we need a percussionist, yada yada yada, we got a new album in the works, we need a percussionist, what do you think about moving out to California and joining the band? We want to recruit you. And every single person in my life at that point thought I was nuts when I looked at this signed to a label, touring the country, got a new album coming out soon band. And I told them, you know what, guys? I think I'm going to see how this lizard thing plays out. I think I got something with the geckos. I feel good here. I appreciate it. I think I'm going to see how the lizards work out. Everybody thought I was out. I thought I was nuts, because that's my whole life since I was 6. That's all I wanted to do, was be a rock star. I want to play music. I want to be on stage. Even today, when I go see bands that I love live, you know that feeling when you like run into an old girlfriend you never really got over and she's with some new guy? That's the feeling I get when I see other bands on stage. Like, it hurts. That, like, in my heart, I know that's really what I'm supposed to do with my life. But for some reason, I just had a feeling, and I was like, yeah, I don't know that I think Motograder's going to make it big. Like, I don't know how much traction you guys are going to have. And I think I kind of want to play with geckos for a while. And then I told him no. I told him I didn't want to move to LA and join their band. I want to breed geckos for a living. It turns out I made the right choice.
So is the band, what's up with the band now?
So Motograder fell apart.
Okay.
They've kind of tried to reform under different lineups several times over the years, but never really got back to the momentum they had when Ivan left. They had really good momentum when Ivan left, and they just have struggled over the years. They struggled to get that momentum back. It never really played out. So a bunch of my friends that were tied up in that world, like, they're still out. A bunch of them live in Sacramento now. They've got a band called the Alpha Complex, and they're still out there grinding. They're doing music. I have a ton of love for them. Like, I have so much respect for them, because they're still grinding way harder than I was ever willing to make that dream come true. Looking at what they're going through to make that dream come true is how I know I made the right choice, because I know I wouldn't be putting in the effort they're putting in.
That relationship you have with your children, it's
it's like
you wouldn't be able to really live that, I don't think, if you're touring.
No, there's a big part of me that regrets not chasing that dream to my fullest ability. But there's another part of me that I've watched my friends do that, and I know in my heart I didn't have it in me to put in the effort they've put in, and I probably would not have achieved the dream that I was chasing.
Well, hell, it's not like you failed, Brian. You went a different route to success.
I certainly don't feel like I failed. I feel like I regret not having a better chance at that path. But like I said, the other half of me knows that I didn't have what it takes to find success on that path, so I can't really regret it.
Not that you didn't have it. You didn't really, I mean, in my opinion, you probably really in your heart of hearts didn't want it as bad as you wanted something else, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I think that's
strike me as a person that's
different ways of saying the same
you
thing, right? Like if
wanted
I
it.
really wanted it, I would have
Yeah,
had what it takes, and
I
I
believe
didn't
you
have
would
what it takes because I probably didn't want it enough.
I believe
Yeah.
you would have if you wanted it is enough. You know, you wanted this. You clearly have not backed off yet, right? Like you are always innovating, always raising the bar. I mean, that's one of the things that I respect most about your brand is that you're always raising the bar. Flawless as well. You guys raise the bar and not in a like smug disrespectful way, I guess you would say. You know, like you don't like, hey, I'm better than you guys type of thing. Like you raise
Yeah.
the bar and encourage others to follow, which is brilliant, right? Like, you know, it's better for the whole hobby. Again, it's like better for the ecosystem, you know, that
Yep.
you protect your hobby, right? You guys are absolutely protecting the hobby by giving us a good name and a good image and being great role models for the hobby. You leave plenty of doors to be open for people. I mean, it's a very unique thing that you do, and I really want to highlight it again, like I did with Flawless, is that with all the infighting and bickering and stuff that we see in the gecko community, guys, there's really no need for it. You can be successful and still be inspirational and be
Yeah.
nice to people, and it eats me alive, bro. And I gotta leave a Facebook group because I read a response that someone gave someone else. I'm like, this isn't what I signed up for. Like,
Yeah.
I
I
don't.
mean, it all kind of goes back to the what I said earlier about having long term vision. I've learned I don't pay attention to those kinds of comments and those kinds of people because I know, like I've been doing this long enough. I know, like see if somebody's. I had a friend once that some person was saying a lot of really nasty things about me online, and she had gotten really upset on my behalf, and then had engaged with the person when it was like trying to defend me. And I finally called her and said, "Hey, like you got to stop." Like, but they said this, and how can you just sit by and let them say these things? And I said, because they're not playing the same game I'm playing. Like they're trying to beat me at a game that I'm not playing.
It's
I'm playing
brilliant,
against myself, and I've
brilliant.
got long term vision, and I know like I'm gonna let them do that, and they're gonna make a lot of noise. And in 2 years, like 2 years, it feels like a long time when you're focused on one day. When you're focused on a career, 2 years is nothing. It goes by like that. And I know in 2 years that person is going to be gone. Nobody will remember them. They won't exist, and nothing that they're doing right now will matter. I'm going to focus on what's going to put me in a better spot 2 years from now. And that's why,
Great
like you were
stuff.
saying, trying to lift everybody up and build the whole community. It's long term vision. If my business plan is how can I make more money at your expense, I'm going to make more money right now. And then when I tear everyone else down around me, the industry goes down around me too. If my
Facts.
business plan is how can me and you and Flawless and everyone else all succeed together, then we all get to succeed for a long time.
Yes, man. That's what everybody needs to have that mentality. Yes,
Yeah.
is like stop thinking about our individual brands, but the community as a whole, and let's get us to the ball python level, or let's level up, guys. Like, you know, it's not like let's be the shining star in this galaxy or you know constellation, if you will, but let's make the whole galaxy brighter. You know, like stop. It's hard, and you know, someone like yourself that's made it through all this. I'm sure you've seen your fair share of people come and go, and again, that whole think about the future thing is brilliant for business. You know, again, there's so many different mindsets within this hobby and different types of goals, which is up to every individual, but it still doesn't give people a right to be mean. You know, we've all been that person again with one gecko that was new and had questions. It's you know everything you post again is just it's just so refreshing. You know, it's refreshing to this the energy, the positivity, it's you know I hate to sound corny, but the smiles, dude. You smile in everything you do, man. You're happy. That it's refreshing, man. It's something that's I hate to say it, but unique, right? Like you see you at shows and you're vending and you're walking around and you got your camera and you're smiling and you're doing all this stuff and you'll see people in other places, like you said, maybe not smoking pot and drinking beers, but they're sitting in the back on their phone and their table's empty and it's like, all right, well, I mean, clearly people are doing, you know, there's
Yeah,
it's
I mean that's been my mindset in life in
out
general.
there.
Like outside of business, like I just want to be happy. Like, I want to have fun. Can I brag a proud dad moment to you for a minute?
Absolutely. Please
I
do.
had a moment, like, I very consciously do things with my children and what I say to them. And like, I'll go out of my way to say things and do things just so they will see me do it because I want them to see me do life that way. And so the other day, like, but you never know. Like, my kids are still young, so like, when they're adults, we can have a conversation about that. But when they're young, like, I don't know if that's working. I don't know if it's making a difference to them. I don't know if it's forming how they.
Brian, you're a phenomenal father.
Man, the one that really got me was I was driving with my kids, and there was the guys at the stoplights that come out with the squeegees and they want to wash your window, hoping you'll give them a couple bucks. And people hate them, and they get like trash thrown at them, and people will like leave a 20-yard gap so they can slowly move their car up to try and keep the guys from coming up to their car. And my daughter asked me one time, she asked me like what those guys are doing, and I just said, they want to wash your window, and they're hoping you'll give them a tip and a little bit of money for helping out. And she goes, yeah, but isn't that really annoying? And I told her, you know, yeah, it's kind of annoying sometimes if you don't want them coming up to your car, or sometimes they're in the way when the light turns green. But I told her, like, I try not to think about that. I just try and think about, like we're lucky. I told her, we're lucky, kiddo. Like, we don't have to worry about what we're going to eat for dinner. We're never going to worry about where we're going to live. We've got a house. Like, I try and think about what would I do if our life was so hard that I had to stand here and try and wash windows for people who hate my existence just to try and get enough money so you and your brother can eat dinner. Like, what would I do? I would, if that was my choice to be hated or let you guys starve, I would stand out here and let everybody hate me. Like, I don't know if that's these people's story on why they're out there, but I don't know that it's not either. So even if I'm not going to pay them to wash my window, I'm not going to be mean to them. Like, I'm just going to, I'm going to respect them, and I'm going to treat them nicely and go about my day, even if they're kind of an annoyance to me. Then my daughter's response to me, this is the one that really got me. Her response was, she looks at me and she goes, Dad, you're different than a lot of parents. Like, she tells me my stepdad yells at those guys, and her stepdad's a great dude. Like, we have a great relationship. I love him. But most Americans will make a comment about, oh, they're so annoying. Like, I don't like these guys. Get them out. Get away from my car. She's like, my friends' parents don't talk like you talk. You talk so much different than my friends' parents do. You're always happy, and you're always telling us not to judge people, and how you just want to have a good time and be happy and enjoy your life. Like, nobody talks like that, Dad. And like, that was the one moment that I was like, damn, it is really getting through to them. Like, it's working. Like, that one hit, man. That one really, really hit. To hear my daughter tell me, you don't talk like most people talk.
Good. That's a great example for everybody. I wish everybody, grown and children and young, would take that as advice. I mean, people go through life, and then we're so caught up in our own lives that we fail to take a second to ask ourselves why and what it took for someone else to be in the situation they're in. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Right,
I
you'll
really
find
don't
it
want to
to
get
the
into
Facebook
it, but
group.
we're
Like,
very
I know
blessed.
everything about geckos, and I'm selling geckos, and I'm a business now. And somebody asked, what objectively is a very silly, foolish, easy to answer question about geckos. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to make the choice to look at them and go, hey, dumbass, get out of here. How dare you? You're so dumb. You would ask a question like that. You don't even deserve to own geckos. Like, you see that constantly on Facebook. Why do you want to be that person?
Right.
Like, I don't want to put that energy into the world. I don't want to find, like, and the way I see it is, like, if I'm going to put that negativity out to give it to somebody, I have to find it myself to put it out. I don't even want that to be within me. Like, why do I hold so much of that negativity in myself that I have so much to give out to other people? Like, that's a sad way to live.
Absolutely, man. I try to tell people all the same thing all the time, Brian. It's like, you've got some real issues to project that on other people. Like, just to project that energy. I'm a big, advocate and proponent of energy, right? Like, and coming in and going out, and it's I don't want to start sounding like a monk or anything, but to project that type of energy on other people, you've got you need to spend some time in front of a mirror, right? Like, you really need to figure out what the cause of that anger, frustration, whatever it is, you need to get to the source of that problem, if that's how you want to talk to people, because it is. It's just, it's an issue within someone's self. I mean, people that ask those questions, I mean, you should be honored and flattered that you have the information that you could give to that person. And God only knows with today's, social media, all these pictures and logos and whatnot, that it's not a child asking you. Is it, would you really feel cool responding to a 10-year-old child like that? I mean,
yeah.
Well, again, like I said, I feel the way I do about it so much, Brian, that I'll just leave the whole group. Like, I just leave the groups.
I just don't interact on.
Right, I respect it. I respect it.
Right, I don't. To me, it's like, so I don't get, but I understand most humans struggle to have empathy, to where they're like, well, why do I care if I'm giving so much positivity to that person? They don't deserve that. Even if that's your mindset, why are you spending so much time finding the negativity in yourself? Like, you can't give it out unless you find it inside first. Or you could use that same energy to find all the positivity you can in yourself and hand that out to everybody else. Even if you don't care what you're giving to other people, care about yourself. Like, what are you doing with yourself? Are you being negative all the time? Or are you going to put your energy into finding the positive things that you have?
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
You don't even have to care about other people to want to be positive that way.
It's not selfish. I say this at least all the time. It's not selfish to put yourself first, right? You have to be mentally and emotionally sound to be a good person for others, right? Like, you have to be the best you. We have to pay more attention to ourselves, not what we have, not necessarily what we do, but how we feel, right? Like, again, with the energy thing, it's like our current energy is going to directly reflect the energy we put off. Like, and if you can better that, right? If you can be at peace with who you are, what you're doing, a current situation, you're more apt to handle any particular situation that may arise unexpectedly with a more positive outlook overall. Yep. It's and I know it's not easy. I know, I've been there. I'm not trying to sound like I am some monk, because I have my moments where I'm ready to.
Oh yeah, it's not easy. It's not like I'm sitting here going, I'm perfectly positive and treat everybody with the proper empathy and respect. I absolutely do not. There are days I have bad days, and I have bad thoughts and say things I shouldn't, and I'm judgmental, and I can be rude, and I can be unhelpful, and it's an everyday struggle and an everyday choice. And some days I can't make the right choice. A lot of times I try to.
For sure. Just knowing that, though, and that's also goes hand in hand with the good energy, bad energy, fixing ourselves thing, is we need to acknowledge the fact that we're not perfect. We do have flaws, and we need to acknowledge those flaws. You can never really fix anything if you don't acknowledge what's wrong, right? Like, with everything, our businesses, our animals, our collections, ourselves, you have to be honest, right? Honesty is the key to everything, right? Like, we can't live in this world where we just expect things to be how we want them to be. It doesn't work like that, right? We live in Candyland. Like, I mean, it's not. But you do it well. You do it well. You're a great role model. Cool little tidbit for your kid, actually. My very first lychee is named after your son, Gage.
Oh, really?
Right. That's we were talking about something on Facebook one time. He posted a picture, and somehow his name came up, and I was like, huh, that's a damn cool name, man. That is an awesome name. I'm naming the gecko Gage.
That's amazing. You'll have to send me a picture of it so I could show it.
My first male Lichianus named him Gage after your kid. Pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Just not into this. I'm just curious, because you've clearly had success with the crested geckos. Is there any reason, not that I know that you don't work with other species, but is there any reason that you stayed with just crested geckos and didn't, go all out with like gargoyles and lychees and other things? Is there any particular reason why you stuck with just the crested geckos?
It's trial and error mostly. It was, I've had at one point, not a huge collection of gargs, but probably 50 breeders or so. I've had lychees throughout the years on and off. At one point I had a crap ton of day geckos of 8 different species. And really it mostly boiled down to what am I good at and what am I successful at? Because those aren't always the same thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And a big part of it was space. Like, I've been in the same space breeding wise since 2012, and I don't really want to get to a bigger space. Like, I know if I get more physical space to house animals, I'm going to grow to a place that I'm not comfortable managing and I don't want to manage. So it's really mostly just come down to space. And there's so many crested projects I want to do and so many things I want to play with.
Yeah.
And when the question is, like, I have one room that used to just be all day geckos and tokays and lychees and chihuahuas, and it was a whole room of just the other species. It was like the everything that's not cresteds. And then the got to a point where I was like, well, I can either put another 250 grow out cages in there, and I'll have more room to grow up animals to better pick what I want to keep to breed, more room for breeders. I can add more experimentation to my collection and take on more projects with cresties, or I can keep producing a handful of gargs and a handful of day geckos and a handful of tokays.
Yeah.
I'd rather have the cresties. It's more fun. I enjoy it more. It's better for business. Like, in all aspects, it became a pretty easy choice to just focus on cresties.
Cool, for sure. I was just curious, it seemed like someone with such a broad reach. Like I was just like, I don't know. I mean, a thought just crossed my mind. Like, I don't know. Could he sell? He'd probably do great with anything that he did. I mean, but does it make sense? Does it logistically
I have that thought sometimes too, where I'm like, well, I should expand, and I still do every once in a while. I'll try and expand it to something, and I'll get that itch, and then I just quickly realize, like, well, I do. It's kind of a double-edged sword. Like, I do so well at the cresties because I'm so passionate and so fascinated by them. And it's like, I would do my success with like gargoyles is going to be mirrored by my passion for gargoyles. Like, if I had a passion for them, look at Chihuahua breeders, man. When I was getting into things, right, an expensive Chihuahua was $1,500-$1,600, and now they're well into the five figures. But I'm like, could I, like, physically, logistically, could I have done what the guys that have been doing Chihuahuas as long as I've been doing cresties, the Gilpins, and those people that are producing, like, Ryan Susan has some of the most amazing ones I've ever seen. Like, if I had been doing it, logistically, I could have done what they did, but would I have? Probably not. I don't have the passion for it. I'm not in love with the way I am with cresties. I probably wouldn't have found their level of success because I don't have their level of passion for the animals.
Your market is much, much bigger, not for nothing, but I have animals. Well, I don't have any animals from Brian, but I have animals from just about all of them. Who is how I got into this. But I think for what you have now, your business, it'd be hard to do that with Chihuahuas unless I'm not bashing any of them by any means, God, but I think Chihuahua alone, if LAC Herps was like, just going to breed Chihuahuas, they wouldn't be half of what they are. No offense. It's their diversity that makes them that good. They're just too expensive to sell. And not that you don't sell, valuable animals, but you offer, your diversity comes in the form of price brackets, right? Now you offer one species to suit everybody. You can cater to a whole hobby with your price brackets.
It would be, they're different animals. It's a different market. It would fundamentally be a different business, and it is. Like, what Susan does is very different than what I do. There's a lot of fundamental differences. It comes back to the ecosystem comment. It's an ecosystem. That's not my niche, right? I'm fit in my niche in the ecosystem, and I've evolved very well for my niche. I can't, if I'm think of an ecosystem. If I'm a desert animal, I can't just go to the rainforest and go, well, this is somewhat similar. I can probably just go over to where the trees are and also succeed. I might survive, but I'm not going to succeed. That's not my niche.
For sure. And you do it well. I think that it's because I don't know what I really think. You're so established, right? Because most people right now, let's be honest, there's a lot of talk, again, I mentioned it earlier, but with the market and people panicking and whatnot. And I see a lot of similar answers or solutions, and that's to diversify, like get more species. If you have more species, you cater to a broader audience, blah, 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 blah. You don't need to. right? Like altitude does not need to diversify species to survive. You don't. Your name is synonymous with crested geckos. Like it is from a consumer standpoint, like I hear altitude, I think crested geckos. Like I don't feel, after talking about it, right now and thinking about it with you, that diversifying would really financially benefit you at all, right? Like
I mean, it's the chicken and the egg thing, right? Like we just talked about. Like I have diversified in the past. It doesn't pay off for me. So does it not pay off because I'm better at cresties, or am I better at cresties because I chose not to diversify? I think they work together. It's one and the same, right? There's people like Tiki's geckos, for example. They're huge in the cresty world, but they're diversified as hell and have all kinds of stuff, and it has paid off for them enormously, enormously. They've far surpassed anything that I do.
A couple weeks ago, he's great.
Right? It's paid off for him. I can't do what David does. That's not my niche. I don't have the skills that he has. I wouldn't be able to pull off everything he pulls off. I'm not David. I can't do what he does. If I tried to diversify like they did, I wouldn't find the same success they did. That's just not who I am.
It's good. You don't have to. Again, it's cool. I mean, have you found it over the years? I know I asked a question earlier, but we kind of got off track. How and I know you've taken how has it been? How has how am I going to say this? How have you survived, and how do you? I guess I can answer that for you. Would be, with the ups and the downs of the market. How have you, and how do you plan to continue to ride this hobby out? How again, like I said, I guess I can answer it. You would just say, you make adjustments. But, over the years, the market, I mean, I could just think of for myself being a child to an adult and these animals being around and being a consumer. The market has always gone up and down. Prices, like anything else, reptiles have their moments where they're expensive, and then they're not expensive, and then they're expensive, and then they're not expensive. And it's, an up and down thing. And I've seen it break, and maybe because I've never been this involved. Like there's never, my whole life I've had reptiles for 40 years. I've had born into a family that bred big snakes. And I've never had the social media aspect. Never really paid attention to what other people do in sales and whatnot. Again, but I've known the prices have always gone up and down. So let's just leave it at that. And the prices have gone up and down. But now I'm noticing a lot of people are like that bottom of the market is pushing a lot of people out the door. Like they're closing their doors. Like I always just assume you just drop your prices. The prices drop, the market drops. You want to move animals, you do what the market's doing. You lower your prices. When the market takes off again, you slowly increase your prices again. I mean, you don't close the door and give up your passion and say, okay, it's done. I mean, how have you managed this, and what do you foresee for the future?
I would echo what you just said. You don't give up on your passion. We'll use the story I told earlier as a perfect example. Life got hard. My whole life I wanted to be a rock star. That's all I ever wanted to do. I have never had a feeling as good as being on stage. I have not been on stage in almost 20 years, and I miss it every single day. I didn't have the passion to chase that career. Like, I walked away. I know people. I still have friends that cannot walk away from that. They are still doing it. It's the same in this industry. If you have that passion, you don't walk away. I've had bad years. I've had downtimes. I'm not going to walk away. There's people that will. It's okay that people do. There's people that do and then regret it later. There's people that walk away and then come back. All of that's okay. It's all part of the ecosystem. The market fluctuations, man, I've been around a long time. I've always said there's two fluctuations that always happen. There's a seasonal fluctuation, and it's usually, oh my goodness, sales are great. The market is strong from mid-February to April. And then from late August, September through November, it's, oh my goodness, the market's crashing. Everything's flooded. Geckos are worthless. It's a much smaller flux, but there's a yearly flux, and then there's a bigger 3-year flux, and it's every 3 years. A bunch of new breeders come in, and then 3 years later, there's a downturn, and a lot of those people give up and close shop and leave. We're at the downturn of, so like normally that 3-year flux goes like this, and then COVID hit. And COVID made the upswing go way up here, and now we're at the downswing of that. So it's so much more extreme than it is because There's a lot of people during COVID. That was a huge bubble that came into it was not just the reptile world. It happened in a lot of
Everything.
hobbies. It happened in cars. It happened in the pet world in general, got a huge boost. There was a lot of people that made the decision I made 15 years ago and said, this is my career. I'm going to do this forever. Not reading the signs and realizing we're in the middle of a gigantic bubble. And when that bubble popped, now there's a lot of people that are realizing I can't do this. The market won't support it. And, we're kind of in an adjustment period. It's a rougher one than normal, but it is still, in my estimation, on track with the normal ebbs and flows that we go through. And it's going to be a rougher adjustment for everybody, myself included. And eventually we'll adjust and we'll move back up and then we'll move back down and we'll just keep going through the cycles.
So you think, you clearly think that we'll have another upswing and we'll make it out of the hobby itself. We'll make it through this. And how do you foresee the next 5 years of this hobby looking? What do you see for the hobby over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think we would be on a stronger upswing right now. Like, I think we're coming out of that low point coming out of COVID. That's hard to tell if you just spend a lot of time online, because there is always, it doesn't matter what year, what time, what month, there's always people online talking about how the market's dead and we've got to sell everything off because the market's dead. It's like, no, the market's not dead. Your business acumen is dead, and it was dead on arrival, but that's not the same thing. Those people aren't part of the ebb and flow. They're just noisy people online. I think we would probably be on a stronger upswing right now if it weren't for the political and economic uncertainty that our country's in. Doesn't matter what your views or opinions on it are, it's there. So whether you think it's going to be a net positive or a net negative over the next 4 years, the fact is there's a lot of uncertainty, and that makes things in the economy difficult. And I think that has kind of slowed the rebound that we would normally see, but it's still there. It's still there. I think we are slowly on an uptick. I think that uptick will, like I said, that swing is going to get slowed down and that curve will get flattened a little bit due to everything. But I do think we're in an upward trajectory, and we'll probably be there for the next couple of years. Barring any absolute madness that happens, you never know. But
for sure, I would agree. Not that I know the market like you do, but from a consumer standpoint and just an American citizen standpoint, it's very normal to me. It is what it is. I hate to sound so harsh, but I always say to people, or I'll say in general, like, if you're folding up, you probably weren't as passionate as you thought you were, right? Because there could be a nuclear war tomorrow, Brian. My chihuahuas aren't going anywhere. Like, I got to figure out how I'm bagging them up, boxing them up, and taking them with me, to be honest with you. Going nowhere,
right? It's echoing the thing we've been echoing this whole time. Like, not here to judge. Like, that's okay. Sometimes people thought they had a bigger passion, and then they realize they don't, and they move out of that space. That's okay. Sure. That's how you learn that you don't have that passion. Sure. Everybody's here to learn. Some people have that passion, and they just physically can't. Well, your life changes. Maybe your passion changes because your life changes. Like, sure. I have a lot of customers that aren't customers anymore, but I'm still in contact and friends with them. And they got 2 or 3 kids now, and watching my YouTube channel and buying my geckos isn't the most important thing they do on a Friday night anymore. Sure. That's great. Like, you got 2 kids now. My geckos aren't important. Your kids are important. Like that. Absolutely. That stuff happens. Like, it's all part of the ecosystem. It's all moving.
Yes, very normal. Very.
And people that always, whenever there's a small downturn, people panic and the market's crashed. The geckos are worthless. Nobody likes Cresties anymore. It's like you're living in this fabricated reality in your head where there's exponential growth, and Cresties are always going to do better and better and better, and more people are going to love them, and look how cute they are, and prices are going to be strong, and everybody's going to do great. That's not the real world. Nothing has exponential growth. There have to be ebbs and flows. There have to be ups and downs. There is in every market, every economy, every society, everything has to have balance.
Absolutely. I don't know about you, but I really don't think the crested geckos have gotten to their, and I'm not meaning financially, but popularity-wise, I don't think they've gotten as big as they could yet. I don't think they've reached
I don't think so either.
Yet, man, to be completely honest. I think that we're still exposing them, right? The hobby is still evolving. When you look at the ball python world and leopard gecko world, I don't know numbers, exact numbers, but I mean, it's safe to say that they're a little bit ahead of us, right? Like,
Yeah. I
you
think
know,
African geckos hit their peak and they're back on a downward trajectory.
yeah,
That about ball pythons a decade ago.
me too.
Maybe they're on the way down. I don't know enough about the ball python market, but
Me too. Apparently not. Then people are
I
doing
know
very
people
well.
that breed both, and they tell me the ball python market is 10 to 1 bigger than the crested gecko market.
For sure. For sure, bro. And I'm like, you know, when those things came out when I was a kid, ball pythons. You could buy them at Petco, or there wasn't a Petco, but we had Petland discount. You go to a
Mm-hmm.
Petland discount and buy a ball python for $99. I remember when they came out with the albinos, the first albinos, and then I didn't pay attention to ball pythons for a long time. I wound up at a show one day, and boom, there was all these snakes in front of me. I was like, "What the hell happened? Like, what the hell happened?" Like, and they've just continued to grow from since then. And my point in saying all of that and bringing any of that up and referencing that is that I do not think crested geckos have reached that yet. I don't think we have gotten to the height. Let's be honest, we're still trying to figure these animals out. We're still trying to figure genes out. We're still trying to figure out how certain things interact with each other. I mean, there is still a whole bunch of unknowns. Ball pythons, they have, shed testing and all types of scientific papers on DNA and all types of stuff, but we haven't gotten there with crested geckos yet. We are still getting there with New Caledonia. Maybe it's harder because I don't know that necessarily really matters, but New Caledonia isn't as accessible as the continent of Africa is. But as far as like DNA tests and all that, I feel like that will come with crested geckos. It will. It absolutely will. We will figure something out. Someone somewhere, some scientist in a lab with a passion for these animals is going to come up with a mail-in shed testing, fecal testing, some type of test to start decoding these animals' genetics. And when I'm saying all that in reference to the market because people are panicking about the market's on a downswing or whatever they're saying. It's not even hit the top yet. And again, financially and popularity, yes, I understand they're two different things, but we're not even up. We're not even close to as high as these things have potential to be.
Yeah, I agree. Especially like you said, financially, the COVID bubble screwed it all up. Like it'll never financially get back to even a quarter of what it was at that point.
It's very abnormal.
Popularity wise, yeah, I think there's enormous room for growth there.
Sure, for sure. Which is good to hear that you think that as well. I normally don't ask many people, but it's good to hear someone else thinks it because I just, like I said, I'm like yourself. I'm super observant. I'm analyzing 5 different things at one time in my head, and it just doesn't make sense that these guys have hit their max popularity. The people with them, like I said, don't know enough. We don't know enough about them for them to be as popular as they can be. I know that may not make sense to people, but trust me, in my head, it's making a lot of sense.
I can't help but compare. I've been around not nearly as long as some people, but long enough. You see animals that you think are going to have legs and are going to be super popular, and they don't make it. And then you see animals like corn snakes they're still incredibly popular. They've come down quite a bit from their peak too. They were real early risers. Leopard geckos have come down and are still 10 to 1 more popular than cresties. I thought fat tail geckos for a while. I wondered if they were going to have really, really strong, serious legs, and they never did. They never, like, cresties are clearly at the point where they're doing better than they're not going to hit the slump that fat tails did. They're not going to hit the slump that some people thought blood pythons for a while were going to get. Not to ball python level, but retic level maybe. And they haven't even reached that. Across those slumps, I can't imagine that they're not going to keep moving upwards. They've passed the barriers where they're just going to flame out and not become a popular pet. I can't imagine they don't get to the status leopard geckos and corn snakes and your kind of bearded dragons, that kind of stuff.
For sure. The people working with them, like yourself, again, like I said, referencing you as a role model, whether you want to admit it or you don't, you have a huge part and you have a very important role. You carry a lot of responsibility on your back, Brian, when it comes to the way these animals are portrayed. People, again, like I said, you are synonymous with crested geckos. I think when people look up or someone winds up in a Petco and they buy an animal and they go home and after they made that spontaneous purchase and bought this cute little gecko that walks on glass, chances are one of the first videos they're going to find is either you, David from Tiki's, Flawless, right? Like there's very, like you guys have a lot of responsibility, and which is cool. It's super flattering. That's awesome, and you guys all do a great job at it. So it's cool. Again,
I
every
think
one of us out here though leads and has a minor part in how the rest of the world views these things, right? Like we all have to take this into consideration when we
it's
book
a weight
fishers.
that the entire community shares, right?
Yeah.
It's portioned out mostly equally to how much weight you have in the community,
For sure.
but everybody shoulders some of the weight. Like we've all got to do right by the animals, do right by how we represent them, how we treat them, how we tell people about them, how we display them. Right? It's a responsibility everybody shares.
One of the greatest pieces of advice when I first started, I was watching, videos and trying to learn everything I could, absorbing it, everything I could. And I was listening to a video you were talking about using water bowls for ambient humidity. Probably one of the best things I've ever done.
Yeah.
Like it's for sure, hands down, without a doubt. I mean, I obviously mist and spray, but it's not something I have to do nearly as much as, it's having a water bowl. And I often, will hear people say, oh, no, I don't use water bowls and I don't need water bowls, or they don't need water bowls. One, I clearly see them drink out of water bowls all the time. But two, it does works miracles for ambient humidity, man. Since I've been using the water bowls, I don't think that I can really recall a time I've had a stuck shed issue. I swear by it now. It's like one of my biggest pieces of given advice. Like if I tell someone, if you're keeping geckos and you're using, plastic totes of any sort or anything like that, use any enclosure. I'll tell people, use a water bowl, if anything, for ambient humidity, man. Like keep moisture in the enclosure.
Yeah.
And when it's just something I'll always think of when I think of changing a water dish or I'm doing something. I'm like, man, I got that from Brian, man. It's like it's always in my head. Very, very cool, man. So it's like you've impacted my life. And I can't. You're talking about thinking ahead and thinking about the future. I can't think of a time or envision a time in my life that I won't have New Caledonian geckos, man. And the whole time I'm doing that, I will have water bowls in all of their enclosures. It's like
right. And I mean that's a good example of kind of what I love about doing that kind of content, the educational stuff, sharing experiences that I have. It's kind of I want to use that to kind of fight against the toxic Facebook group culture that we have touched on. Because so much of that is like pigeonholed people that they want to get on there and they're trying to find some sense of power and control in their own lives. And that's where they find it. Is I can go on Facebook and tell you, hey, you don't need a water bowl. You need to mist with this bottle this much, and that's how you do it. And if you don't do it like that, you're dumb because I know how it works, and you got to listen to me. It's like, even if you're right about the way that you're going about it, that's the wrong way to go about telling people about it. Like, that's not the only solution. You can do water bowls. You can do whole room humidifiers that never mist. You can mist and never provide a water bowl. It's like, it needs to be a community where we go, here's a list of options that have worked for different people. Test them out and see what works best for you. Every cage, every room, every location in the country, it's all different and not one thing's going to work. So let's just compile good info and support each other in finding what works best for our situation.
Agree 100%. It's all about options, man. And that's one thing I love doing on this podcast and my other podcast, the Gecko Exchange, is we're always trying to we ask different breeders the same question because we want people to know that there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's options depending on where you live, right? Like I can give you, step-by-step methods on how I keep an animal here and works perfectly for me. And you can do step-by-step everything that I do right here in New England, and you try it in Arizona, and you're going to think that I'm a madman because your animal's going to die in a week, right? Like it's what I do. Every little micro environment is a little bit different. The goal stays the same. That's why I'm a huge proponent of using nature as our proxy, right? Like I believe that nature should kind of always be our gauge because that's what we're trying to replicate. Now, how you get there, that's depending on where you live, what you're doing, but this is the ultimate goal, right? Like these parameters. And there's more than one way to do it, clearly, right? Like having options, right? Having an arsenal of effective options is something like you're saying that we should be trying to do is give people options, right? Like, we don't, telling people how to do things is kind of dangerous, for obvious reasons. Telling them how to do something, it's, again, depending on their microenvironment, that it may not work, and it could come off as abrasive, and there's just a million ways, yes, in those groups and on Facebooks, and people are always like, do this, and this, and again, maybe that's what separates you from everyone else, Brian. I mean, you are clearly different than the masses, right? Like, you have a gift for how you present information, how you teach. You're gifted. You're gifted. There's a reason. Yes, it's hard work, but there's a lot of elements that have helped you succeed and become altitude exotics, right? Like, and I don't want to say that everyone can't get there, right? Because, I mean, you are human, right? Like, you were just a dude keeping geckos, but I'm not sure that if everyone can. I mean, you have to change the way you view, the way you think about things. You have to be, open-minded.
Yeah, I think. I mean, that's kind of a hard one to answer. Like, it's hard to say, like, yeah, nobody can do what I do, because that sounds like it feels gross even saying that.
Yeah.
You would understand what I mean when I say that, but me saying it feels gross because I know how it sounds. Like, I think it's more important to focus on, like, well, you don't want to do what I do.
There you go.
It's like what I said about what Tiki's. I don't want to be Tiki's geckos. Partly because it's not what my interest is. Partly because I can't do it as good as David and them do. Like, David and Manny do things that I can't do. And even if I did want to be them, I'm not going to do that because I'm not them. Like, it's important to find, like, we keep talking about it as an ecosystem. Like, every ecosystem has this niche. Like, one of my favorite examples I remember learning in school was two birds that had evolved. They eat the same bug off the same tree. They occupy the same niche in the forest. But one bird had evolved to walk in spirals up the tree, and the other bird only walked down the tree. So one bird only saw bugs that you could see under the bark from the bottom, and one only saw the bugs you could see under the bark from coming downwards. And there were two separate species that lived on the same tree in the same location, eating the same food, but didn't overlap because they filled very slightly different ecological niches. It's like, that's the mindset to have, isn't, can I do what Brian does, or can I do what Tiki's does, or can someone do what you do? It's, what pieces of all of that can I take to build wherever my niche is going to be? I can learn things. Like, some of the most important things I've learned from other businesses, other minds, other breeders, isn't, hey, what thing did you do that I need to now do because it's worked? It's actually more important to see, hey, what did you do that I can't do? Like, I know I can't do what Tiki's does. I know I can't do what the Gilpins do. I learn a lot from watching what they do and going, all right, that works for you, but it doesn't work for me. So if that doesn't work, what other options can I look at that would? It's like, I don't need to find, it's hard to find one thing in the world that you can do right. But if you look at all the things you can't do and you blank those out, finding that one thing gets a lot easier.
Sure, makes sense. Hey, Brian, did you go to college? Do you have a degree in animals or any other?
I barely got out of high school, to be honest with you. Not barely, but like, I was not a standout. I think I had a 2.7 GPA in high school, like a C+ average. Like, I thought about going to college for a few things, but it had nothing that ever really, like, grabbed me enough to make me actually go after it.
So you had no business, because I mean, you have a very, are you reading any type of literature? I mean, you have a very strong business sense. Like, I'm constantly reading business books, and it's just something I enjoy.
Yeah.
But I watch certain people, and I'm like, they're either really good at business or they're reading some of these books. Like, do you read any business literature, or do you?
I've never read business books. I read an incredible amount. I'm constantly reading. More nonfiction than fiction. I usually read 3 books at a time. I generally have one audiobook that I'm listening to whenever, I'm not able to read. And then I generally have 2 physical books, one fiction and one nonfiction. And I kind of rotate through, what's going on at any point. I read a lot. Like, I find a lot of value in fiction more than just entertainment. Like, you can pick up things you can apply to your real life and fiction books. But really, I love reading nonfiction, especially like historical biographies, autobiographies, stories. I just love stories. Like I love reading stories about people, about places, about problems, how they were solved. I've never read business books, but I do think I gain a lot from just reading about people's stories. I can pick up it's like that same thing of like, so here's something I can take and apply to my whole life, and here the whole book's worth of stuff that doesn't work for me. But I have the knowledge now. I can think about it.
I asked Will a similar question because he also has a great business sense, and he had mentioned reading a book that I had read actually multiple times, called Robert Kiyosaki book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Have you ever heard of it?
I have. The number of times I've had people tell me to read that book, and the number of times I've had people baffled that I never have.
It's a really, really good read. It's kind of like a business book meets biography type thing. Very, very cool. I was just curious if you read it, but so you just have this naturally gifted business. I was just curious where it comes from. I mean, I know it's the passion, but is your passion making you this good at business? Like,
I just can't turn my brain off. I've been like this my whole life. I mean, I really have. Like when I was a kid, and we used to go. There was a golf course by my house where we lived. I kind of grew up in different areas. We moved 3 or 4 times.
Colorado the whole time, or
yeah, always in Colorado. There was a spot we lived kind of south of Denver that there was a really, really nice golf course about 1.5 miles from my house. I used to ride my bike over there because it was fun on the cart paths. They were like twisting like this, and we would go like race our bikes until the golfers would yell at us to leave. And then I figured out there's a creek that goes through the golf course. So I would go walk through the creek, like leave my bike, and I'd find all kinds of snakes down there and frogs and turtles, and it just became fun to hide from the golfers and go look for animals and walk through the creek and get properly muddy and disgusting. And then I figured out, well, when the golfers don't want to get muddy and disgusting and they hit their golf balls into the weeds in the creek, they leave them there. And if I go pick them all up, take them home, wash them up, and set up a little stand a block down the street from the golf course selling used packs of golf balls for 50 cents each, I can make money to go find snakes, essentially. I get to go play with garter snakes and turtles, and whenever I see a golf ball, pick it up, and I can make enough money to buy a new pack of Pokemon cards every once in a while.
It makes a lot of sense, Brian. That was kind of almost like, from my point of view, I mean, that's probably the inception of your passion for animals and business. Like it probably altitude probably started right then in the creek in the freaking golf course.
I mean, it's a mix of everything. I've spent most of my childhood out trying to catch animals and exploring in nature. And I've just always had this brain that I can't shut it off. I see angles like that everywhere. It's like I said, like I have ideas when you were talking about like responsibility on how people see these animals. Man, I've got ideas on how I would like to grow the crested gecko business in general. Like I just don't have time to do it. Like I think somebody should put significant resources into pushing the idea that geckos should be treated more like fish than they are like pets. Like nobody holds. This is a huge thing that I've been focused on for a lot. I could talk business ideas for hours with you.
Love to hear it.
I don't know how to make this a business, but like the idea of what it would do to the gecko industry in general, if we could popularize the idea that these are more like fish than they are pets, because people like to pet their gecko and hang out with it, and you name them. Nobody names their fish. Most people don't name their fish. Nobody holds their fish. Nobody brags to their friend about how much I love my pet fish. Because fish aren't pets. They're living artwork. People don't like their fish. They like their fish tank. It sits in the living room, and the whole family gets to help decorate it. And what are we going to pick to put inside? And then you get into the coral people that spend thousands of dollars building elaborate coral tanks. That is the centerpiece of their house, is their coral fish tank. Why aren't we doing that with bioactive terrariums? Why aren't we promoting this idea that the gecko is not the pet? The gecko is what lives inside of the centerpiece of your living room, is this giant bioactive tank with a rainfall misting system and lights and 10 different types of plants. And it's a little ecosystem, just like a coral tank that you built into your house. And that's the centerpiece of the artwork of your house. It's why, so I've invested in as a part owner in Zen Habitats. And that was one of the reasons that I got in with those guys. Is they're one of the only companies that build tanks that look good. Like there's tanks that are functional, but they're mostly black PVC or just straight glass. There's tanks that are cheaper. There's enclosures that like solve a lot of other problems, but nothing that does all that and looks like you could have it in your mom's living room and it's a piece of furniture.
Sure.
Like that's the main thing that I love about what we do at Zen is they're beautiful tanks. They're made of
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, real wood. Like that's what I want the industry to imagine what the industry would blow up to if like when I was a kid, every kid had I don't remember my fish. I remember my fish tank. I remember the fish tank in the living room. I remember we had to take turns on if me or my brother got to feed the fish because that was like part of our family lore was the fish tank. I can't even tell you a single fish that was in there. But we sure as hell bought a lot of fish for fish tanks because we loved having one as the centerpiece of our house.
Sure.
Let's build an industry around that for Bavaria.
How you would do it? I mean,
I don't
personally,
know.
That's how I run my setups. You know, I run all glass cages. I mean, my lychees, that's a lychee tank, man. Fully growing moss plants, Mr. Machine, waterfall. I mean, that is literally my grandmother says, Anthony, why do you have so many lizards? What do you do with them? And I say, Graham, it's not the lizard. It's the environment that I get to build, man. I have a greenhouse in my house. I have a table full of plants from all different areas in which my reptiles come from. I mean, I thrive on building. How do I get into this? I don't want to talk about me, but as a kid, I used to dream of traveling, right? Traveling, seeing the world, going to these places, and I couldn't. So I'd always get a tank, right? I'd have a tank. And before I even knew what type of reptile or animal was going to go in that tank, I would come up with an environment that I wish I could explore, right? I would say, I want to build a piece of this jungle or rainforest or desert, and I would build it, and then I would somehow come up with a way to get the animal that would live in there. The animal was always second thought to the environment that I built, and I never grew out of it. You know, I build these little mini jungles, I call them, you know, and I love the jungle. The animal really just complements it. I love my geckos, I love my animals, but my chihuahuas just complement the jungles I got to build. It's cool.
It's interesting to me because my career is built on keeping $1,000 lizards in $6 cages. That's what I do. That's my job. I keep very expensive lizards in very cheap cages. But I would love to see the industry move towards. It's like nobody builds a $2,000 beautifully decorated bioactive vivarium to put a $40 Cresty in it. That doesn't happen. But in the fish world, it's not at all uncommon for a normal suburban family that has no ties, like we're not reptile people, we're not fish people, to spend $500 on a fish tank to keep a $40 pleco in there. Like that is very normalized in the fish world. If it was normalized in the gecko world to build a $500 bioactive viv and put a $40 Cresty in it, like I think that would be really beneficial for the whole industry.
Absolutely, man. In general, dude. I mean, not for nothing, and not that I'm, you know, I used to be part of the fish community, big part. I mean, I genuinely believe everybody that kept reptiles at one point at least had an interest in fish. But you can combine ball pythons, crested geckos, leopard geckos, put all the whole damn reptile hobby together and take just saltwater fish, and will blow the reptile market out of the water, man. I mean, it's such a vast market. I mean, it is. I don't think they even ever talk about dips and peaks in the fish world, man. I mean, it is.
It's huge.
Huge.
Right? You can see that crossover in the gecko world. Look at Alan Rapace. He is the reason we are all here. He
does make a lot of fish products too, yeah.
So that's where I'm going with it. He very shrewdly found crested geckos. And like the myth that they can live on just fruit is a myth. And it's a myth that Alan Rapace promoted. So he started breeding geckos in mass. And then I've actually read he had a promotional flyer he was sending out to like corporate headquarters of all these different pet stores, telling them like, here's the geckos. I can sell you the gecko. I can sell you the food. They can live in the cages that you guys already sell for chameleons, the iguanas, and the things that you already sell. You can promote them as not needing heat lamps, not needing live insects. They can eat the food that I will sell you to then sell to the customers. This is the new big pet that's coming. And he created the gecko market out of sheer business acumen. It was quite astonishing.
Really
He's
is.
the reason any of us are here. I mean, he's the founder of the world of crested geckos. He was the only crested gecko diet for more than a decade. He was the biggest crested gecko diet for 2 decades. He's barely in the crested gecko world anymore. He's barely in the reptile world. He makes 10 times more selling fish products than he does selling gecko products, and he's the gecko dude. He's the reason we're all here.
It's very interesting.
The fish world is so much bigger. Like, that's what I'd love to see the gecko world kind of move towards, seeing them as more artwork than animal.
How do you think someone would? It's hard to see how someone. I mean, how would someone go about that? I mean, I think half the allure, or a huge part of the allure of keeping crested geckos, is that you can keep a lot of them in small space. I don't want to say that it's polite or correct or whatever. I'm not judging anyone how they keep their animals. But it's like common knowledge that you can keep them in plastic bins and have walls of them,
right?
As opposed to glass tanks. My numbers are always limited because I only have so many places where I can keep glass tanks. Typically am always under 200 animals because of my enclosures.
I mean, that's what I just told you. I've made a career out of keeping expensive geckos in cheap enclosures.
Which is not wrong.
It's a niche. It's the niche I live in. So I think it would be like, it's a bit of an overstatement, but like a societal change, right? Like, this is how we view cresties. This is what they are. They're addictive. You can get a bunch of them. You want to get one of every morph and then create more morphs. And like, that's the focus of how our society sees crested geckos. No one person can make a societal shift like that, but it would have to be a societal shift from viewing them like that to viewing them as, it's an interesting creature to fill my even more interesting cage.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know how you would make that shift. One person could make that shift. I think a way that gets started is like what Flora Fauna does. Make it common knowledge at Reptile Expos that you can sign up for our terrarium building workshop, and we'll teach people how to put, like, it's an expensive workshop to sign up for, but you're building a terrarium you take home with you. So, like, imagine, like, I love saltwater fish. I dive, I snorkel, I do underwater photography. I love it. I have zero interest in building a saltwater tank for my house. I don't have the time. I don't know anything about trying to care for coral or get proper salinity level. I don't have the time to get online and try and wade through the minutia of terrible comments I'm going to get in Facebook groups for trying to learn it. If I could go to a place that would be like, hey, for $800, you can come to a conference with 6 other people who also want to build, and we will bring the coral, the tank, teach you everything, and I go home carrying a really cool built saltwater tank, I would probably have a bunch of clownfish behind me. That's not reasonable with a saltwater tank, but you could do that with a vivarium. You could do that.
Nothing. But Gabby, I mean, I guess they put on, Flora Fauna, but their shop, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but they opened up a store, obviously, down in the Carolinas somewhere. One of the most brilliant things I have ever seen in my freaking life is their terrarium bar. They have a bar in there, in an area in their store where you can go in and literally, you pay whatever the price is, and you build your terrarium in their shop. You get your tank, your substrates, you pick whatever cork and bark and wood you want. You can literally build your terrarium with any piece of inventory they have right there at their freaking bar and take that fully built terrarium home with you.
And then you have the employees at the store that are giving you the knowledge of how to do it, the knowledge of how to care for it, maintain it. Like, imagine if that spread bigger picture and could begin to make that shift of seeing, like, I'm going to pick on Pangea. I love Pangea. I love the guys. I love John. I love Kevin. Like, we're good. There's no, like, I'm not picking on them in a bad way. We're all very close. I love those dudes. Brilliant business decision that I have stolen at times throughout my career. They sell starter cages. It's a basic glass exoterra cage with the basic stuff you need for a basic gecko inside for $99, and you get a free gecko with it. So that's the same idea, but it's with a cheaper cage that kind of perpetuates you can keep these in a cheap, easy cage and collect a whole bunch of them. What Gabby's doing, like, that's not bad. That's valuable. It's genius business. I've done similar things myself. I fully support them and what they did. But imagine the societal shift we would have if more people did what Gabby does. It's the same thing, but yeah, it's a $500 buy-in instead of a $90 buy-in. but you get to go through the experience, getting your hands in the dirt, building this, getting the knowledge. How do you maintain it? And by the way, when you're done and you're walking out with this beautiful cage, I'll give you a gecko to put in it. You can pick. Here's 5 crested geckos. Just take the one you want off the shelf and it goes home with you. You also get the knowledge of how to care for the animal. And like, I think that's a pretty good idea. I don't know how you implement that large scale, but I think that's a great idea.
I think she's on her. She's starting. I think that, you know, everything Gabby does is pure, is genuine. She's a very unique person.
She's
I don't
great.
think that a lot of people could just do what she does, but it would be amazing. You know, maybe you know, wouldn't that be cool if at a show someone had a table that just did that? Come over and build your own terrarium at a show. Maybe we didn't sell reptiles at all. We had build your own terrarium, piles of bark, substrates, cages, plants. Come over here, you pay this much money. The guys from the shop, the table, help you put together this terrarium for one flat fee. Boom, you're done. You walk out at a reptile show. Maybe you go to another table, your table, stop by and grab a crested gecko.
This is where my brain always starts working. Imagine if you walk out with your cage that these guys just help you build, and when you leave, they hand you a voucher. This is good for $100 in the show. You go buy your gecko. You get $100 to spend at any vendor, anywhere in the show, and that's part of the fee to build the cage. And when I turn my voucher in, they kick me back $75 out of the 100. I take a little discount to move a gecko. They're upcharging their cage $75, knowing they're going to kick it to me if that person does buy a gecko. If that person walks out and decides not to buy an animal at the show, they just made an extra $75 because they don't got to pay out the voucher.
That would be a brilliant idea.
That's a win. That's a win for whoever's doing the cages, a win for the customer, a win for me because I'm moving animals. It's a win for the industry because we're building things up and making it more exciting. Like, these are the kind of ideas that I'm like, God, if there was 5 of me, man, I could do some.
I had the power to do it, Brian. I would do it right now, man. That is a brilliant idea. A table at a reptile show that doesn't sell reptiles. We help you build your own tank. We help you build your own terrarium.
And right here would that to be at the All-American show that you could have Exoterra sponsor it, and they donate the cage, and the plant, whoever the main plant vendor is, they get a huge sponsorship, and they're donating the plants, and then you split the money. Whoever, you know, I pay to go build a cage. It splits between those sponsors. They're getting sales. They're getting exposure. Whoever's providing the animal gets sales and exposure. It's bringing a ton of people into that show for a new experience. That's a lot better than I'm going to walk into a 90s version Reptile Expo at some hotel ballroom that hasn't changed in 40 years.
See, something like that would fit perfect at the All-American Plant and Reptile Show. That'd be like a perfect table, perfect vending opportunity. You could link it up together and
conversation, come up with all kinds of ideas.
I love it. My whole life with my boss is actually, I'm a carpenter by trade. But my boss is actually like my best friend. And all day, like, I know he gets pissed off because all I ever do is talk about business plans and business ideas. So I'm like, oh, we should do this. We could do this. We could do this. This would make money. This would make money. Imagine if somebody did this. Imagine if we did that. Like, you know, and the whole time I'm like talking, you know, he's working for his business that he's worked so hard to build. And it's like, I'm not trying to leave you, bro, but let's be honest. I'm not going to be working for you forever. Like, I gotta be an owner. I'm going to be a boss myself someday, bro. Like, damn, the gears are always turning, you know. Everything to me is an opportunity, whether it's for me to win or one of my buddies to better their business or anything. Like, I ultimately want to see everybody win. Like, if I was in your shoes, I don't look at anybody as competition. I know it sounds crazy, and I know there is healthy competition, sure, but I don't view things like that, you know. Like, if I'm bettering and you're bettering and me helping you better is making me level up and we're all leveling up. Yep. I mean, it's like, it's a good thing to me. Like, why would I not want someone else to do good? Like, shit, we should all do better.
I'm the same. I love doing that. I've got whole ideas I can't quite get into yet, but ideas of how I'm going to select people in the industry and help. Like, I want to help you build. I want to give you a platform for the day. I want to do this. Because it's going to help me too. You know, I do that. I mean, Flawless is obviously who most people associate me with and who I'm most close with. I absolutely love them. They're two of my favorite humans in the world. Will is one of my best friends I've ever had. Right. They're like, realistically, from a business perspective, they're probably my biggest competitors in this space. For like the ecological niche that I inhabit, they're my biggest competitors. He's also my best friend. And I know if I build him, I'm going to grow. If he builds me, he's going to grow. Like, I love being in an industry where I can look at somebody who you are my closest competitor, the person I probably fight with for sales more than anybody in the industry. And I'll call him up and be like, hey, bro, let's do a co-promotion. We did one once where if you buy a gecko from him, you get one from me half price. Buy one from me, you get one from him half price. Or a couple weeks or a month and a half ago, we did a Palm Street. I shipped 10 geckos down to his house and we did a Palm Street, 10 of my geckos, 10 of his geckos. Let's auction them all off together. Like,
it's awesome.
I love doing that stuff, man. I want to watch
awesome.
everybody
very,
win.
very, very. I don't even know the words that I'm looking for, but it's great. It's brilliant. It's pure. It's. I got nothing but respect for you guys for doing it. It's unique, compared to typical gecko standards, I guess, but nonetheless brilliant. It's great to see that. I mean, you guys are very similar in that business rooted business sense, I guess. You guys are very clearly both businesses. It's not a hobby, right? Like, you don't have to tell people you're a business, not a gecko breeder. Like, you guys both come off very clearly as businesses, which is very different from most of the hobby, which again is not bad. It's just
there's room for everybody, right?
Absolutely there is. But as far as business wise, you guys are very similar. You would think that you are direct competition, and you guys probably are. Again, I don't think that competition means you gotta, you have to have animosity or hatred or anything like that. I'm a big advocate that super successful businesses have an equally qualified opponent, right? Like, McDonald's be as big as McDonald's is without Burger King?
It's like, that's why monopolies are bad. Monopolies never go. Like, think about even like cell phones. Like, that is one of the most popular tropes in the world, is to talk about how stubborn Samsung people are because, your green bubble or blue bubble or whatever the hell it is, and people pretend to get all mad about it. And they're like, what's iPhone doing? People that are cultishly diehard iPhone people, that is so huge for what Apple does in their whole ecosystem that people will gladly joke about how they're in a cult because they love their iPhone. That entire thing doesn't exist if Samsung doesn't exist. Apple is so much stronger because they're a cult, and they're only like that because they get to compete with Samsung. Meanwhile, iPhones buy their screens from Samsung. Apple doesn't manufacture a touch screen. They buy them from Samsung. Samsung could easily just tell them, no, we don't want to sell this. Like, go spend $2 billion doing it yourself. But they get just as much out of it. Like, it's an ecosystem.
Man, healthy competitions lead to an equal success. Yeah, if you knew how to play it right, I mean, you could really, really succeed. If you could do, like I said, with the sales, you do one thing that automatically shoots people to flawless. If flawless does something that, working together, you can be competitors and work together for the greater good of both of your guys' pockets. It's just cool to see what you guys do, man. I'm not a business man by any means, but I can see what you guys do, and it's awesome. It's awesome because, again, both of you guys are such big, influences in the hobby and role models, and maybe not everybody is grabbed onto it. There's still those negative people out there that, down in the bottom that look at everybody as competition and look at that as a bad thing instead of a good thing. But it's good to have these powerful forces at the top that are promoting healthy competition, right? Healthy competition, healthy relationships, it's, good friendships, good communication. Those again, I can't say enough, and I really just sound like an idiot going on about it, but it's so good for the hobby. It's it genuinely.
Again, I have to right now. I have to do the thing where you made me uncomfortable, so I have to interject and you're right. You're gonna put me and some other people, at the top doing these great things. That's humbling, and I appreciate it. But I also feel like I have a responsibility to say I don't get to be there. I'm not at the top because I'm better than everybody. I'm at the top because everybody is holding up this system that I exist in. I'm not above anybody else. I get to be there because everyone else it's like a mountain. Like if the entire mountain didn't exist, whatever the pebble is at the top, whatever, whoever it is, that's just a pebble on the beach if the mountain doesn't exist. Like it's everybody that builds the mountain of this whole community.
For sure.
It's, I am constantly baffled that I just walk around and look around and be like, I get to live somewhere near the top of this mountain because of all these people that have built it beneath me. It's incredibly humbling and like, I'm just really, really lucky that that's what my life gets to be.
It's not over yet, brother. It's not over yet.
I'm not done. I got ideas. I don't have enough hours in the day, but I got ideas.
That's exciting to hear, man. So what's up with, I feel like somewhere I saw you had something online with altitude, something to do with Belize. What do you got going on in Belize? Do you have like a, what was it? Altitude?
Yeah, I used to do adventure retreats. I used to do adventure retreats to Belize. I would love to start doing that again. So it was basically, I was hiking through Belize one day, and I was just thinking to myself, like, I love this. I wish I could show people. Like, I've seen some of the most amazing sights, the most amazing things. I love to travel. That is the thing I love to do most in the world, more than music, more than animals, more than anything. I love to travel. And I was just kind of thought, I would love to show this to people. And it was kind of twofold. It was half I want to show this to people, and it was half I had gotten into a point at one point in my life where I was in a pretty dark place, and I didn't have much of a community around me. I was in a really toxic, abusive relationship that had stripped away any sense of community, any friends that I had. Like, I had no one to hang out with. I had no one to talk with, no one to feel safe with, no community. And it got to the point where I realized I can't live like this. And I hadn't yet got to a point where I fully identified how abusive the relationship I was in was, or how to extract myself from it. But I did get to a point where I thought I need a community. And then I went, well, as a 35-year-old man, 34, whatever old I was at the time, like, I don't know how to make friends. And I was like, oh, I have like all of these people on the internet that they think they're my friend because they see me on the internet all the time, but I don't know any of them. I don't have any friends. I don't have a community. So I thought, well, I have these two problems. I want to show people more of these amazing things I'm lucky enough to see, and I don't have a community of people to talk to or make any connections with. Why not solve two problems with one solution? So it was hilarious. So when I first came up with this idea, I want to take people to Belize, hike them through the jungle, do really, really physically hard things that they might not be able to think that they're able to do, but they're
probably getting a call again. Yeah, just wait for this time. It will. It'll. I've seen it happen before. There you go. My phone does it too. Can you hear me now?
Restart. All right, it says we're back. So, anyways, I thought, if I could take people and show them these amazing things I get to see in Belize, that would be incredible. Plus, it will make me interact with other humans. I don't know how to go. I don't drink. I'm not going to go to a bar to try and make friends. Like, I don't, when I'm working at reptile shows is the only time I see people, but I'm working. I'm not like trying to have conversation. So I actually went to a girl that worked for me at the time, and I told her this idea. I want to take people to Belize, like a small group, no more than a dozen people, a one-on-one trip, and I will take them on an adventure through the jungle. And she looked at me, and the first thing out of her mouth was, she's, that sounds really fun, Brian, but you hate people. Why would you do this? And I said, well, I don't hate people. I just don't talk to people. That's why I want to do this. I want to change that. I want to be more sociable. I want to learn to talk to other humans again. I want to share experiences with people outside of my house. And so I did that for a few years. About every 4 months, I would take whatever group of people had signed up, and we'd go stay at a resort deep in the rainforest in Belize and go hike waterfalls and go on herping walks at night and zip lining. And it was incredible. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, my boss just got back from Belize. He was out, him and his wife went out there. He's a big offshore fisher. He literally travels the world going on fishing trips. But I was telling him, I was like, one of the guys that's like at the top of the gecko industry, man, like has something he does in Belize. I don't know what, but he does something in Belize. And I couldn't figure it out, man. Did you ever want to buy property out there? Do you have a place
Yeah,
out in
I
Belize?
do. I have a
No
place down
shit.
there. So I go depending on what my scheduling ends up being. Usually 3 or 4 times a year, I get to go out for usually 4 or 5 days at a time. So
Beautiful place, dude.
I love it down there, man. I'm going.
He did go on a guided. He hired some local, some native, and they went out on night hikes or whatever. He found some badass tarantulas. They were
Yeah.
like doing all types. He sent me all types of videos of things from Belize, man.
Remember where he stayed?
Something with an A. He landed in
Ambergris
one.
Key, probably in San Pedro, the city on Ambergris Key.
What are the rivers? He landed in one place, and then they wound up traveling all the way to the other place. But they were on a river in the back of Belize, toward near Mexico. They went to a bunch. He bought me back chips of stones from the ruins that were in the rainforest, like the Aztec ruins or whatever.
Yeah, all the Mayan ruins out there.
Yeah, there's a river back there, something. But he was saying his wife is like terrified of animals and whatnot. But he was telling me, he's like, yeah, we're going to this river and we're going to go do something in this river because there's no crocodiles or anything in this river. So I went on iNaturalist and I was like, well, you say that, but here's a picture of a crocodile in the river you're going.
Crocodiles. I've caught crocodiles in those rivers. They're everywhere.
Really?
Yeah, they're the little ones though. They have two species there. They got the big American crocodiles that'll kill people.
Right?
The little Morlets are relatively not so dangerous.
So legend. Anyway, they went to this river. And they were in this river, and then sure as shit, one of the first pictures he sends me is a crocodile sunning on this river that they're in. I was like, well, where's Vicky? He was like, not here.
That's great.
Great. So great. She's big into birds. His wife is big into bird watching, and apparently
that's a great spot for it.
Quite a few, bucket list birds in Belize.
Yeah.
So are you still doing that? Are you still offering that? Did the pandemic put that, put a halt to that, or what?
Yeah, I did a few during the pandemic.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did a few even during the pandemic. I haven't done one in a few years now. It's on my list of, I had to quit doing it with just stuff in my personal life that came up, and it's kind of high on that list of things that I want to do. And I've just gotten to the point now where I don't have the time or energy to be able to do it. I've also kind of like, when I did it, it wasn't a fully formulated idea. Like it was a fully formulated plan, but I hadn't really internally figured out what it was I was actually trying to do. I just wanted to take people to Belize and show them amazing things.
Your passion, sure.
And that's as far as my planning had gotten. Now that I've done several of them and I've seen how they go and seen the results and the connections I build and what people were getting out of it, I have a much better idea of what it is I really want to do, what it is I'm trying to share with people. And I would love, it's one, like I could probably do it the way I was doing it before now. But now that I have a much better idea of what I want to do and what I want people to get out of it, it would be a much more complex idea to do it the way that I want. So it's kind of on the back burner as like, someday when the geckos slow down, that's my next idea of what I want to pursue, but I want to do it in a much more targeted, much more elaborate, much more effective way. So I've got a lot of ideas and plans around that. That I always tell people, every time somebody asks, I tell them, like, I don't officially run trips and I don't advertise it. But man, if you hit me up and say, I want to go to Belize and see some cool stuff, like, I'll plan us a trip and price it out and just tell you, like, I'm not trying to make money off it. I'll book the whole thing and set it up for us and just tell you what it costs. And we can, like, I don't care who you are. Let's go to Belize together and I'll hike you through the jungle. Like, you're never going to have to twist my arm to get down there.
I mean, man, if you're doing it again, was it profitable to do for a living? Say you didn't have geckos. If
I would like to think I could get there, especially with the ideas that I have around it now, without kind of getting real deep into the weeds on what it would look like in the future. The way I ran it before, the very first one I ever did was not profitable. It was basically, I'm going to try and break even, and I still lost some money, but not a very high amount. And then the second and third ones I did, one of them was profitable. I was never trying to make a ton of money off it. It was basically like, can I charge enough that I pay for what it costs for me to go? And then if I make, on a 7-day trip, I think one of them I made like $800 profit when it was all said and done. And that was a trip, like everything went good. I didn't have to book an extra car. for someone's flight who got delayed or any extra expenses. So I made a few $100. Another one I would have made about the same amount, but I brought my dad with me and I footed the bill for him to come just because I wanted him to have that experience with me.
Can't put a price tag on those memories, brother.
Right, like that was well worth it. It was, I could get it to the point where I might make $1,000 a trip or something like that doing it, but doing 4 or 5 a year, making $1,000 a time, it's like not it's not changing your fortunes, right?
I imagine you would figure it out, though. My boss, again, he went out there and they went on vacation, but part of their vacation they had booked a 6-pack, a boat to go out on like a private fishing trip. And I know that the money that he spent on that, the money the people must have made taking him on the trip had to have been, I mean, for a 6-hour trip, let's say he spent $2,600 for 6 hours. It's probably extremely profitable for those people out there that are doing destination fishing trips,
Yeah.
If that captain had 2 trips in that day, which most do, he probably cleared $4,000 in a day taking tourists out on fishing trips,
Yeah.
It's something I believe people would spend money on. It's very unique. It's a unique opportunity. I mean, at least from my perspective, I don't know if many people I could just call up and say, hey, can I book a trip to go on a private tour through a jungle and on another continent? Like, I'd pay whatever the hell you told me it was, to be completely honest, because who else is going to do it, right?
I have some ideas with it. That's one that's, like I said, it's high up on my list of things I'd love to dig into.
I hope you succeed with it, Brian. I genuinely do. I hope you succeed, and I don't doubt for 1 second that you wouldn't.
I
think
appreciate
you
it, man.
just about anything you want to. Now, do you do a lot of snorkeling there? Is that one of the places you do some diving, some snorkeling?
Yeah, we go diving. I do scuba diving all over the world.
Oh, really?
A good bit. Yeah, I got into diving. So my mom and my stepdad got into diving, I don't know, a decade ago.
Oh, shit.
And they got me a certificate, like they paid for me to go get dive certified for Christmas one year.
Real scuba or snorkeling?
Yeah, like real scuba, yeah. So we lost my mom, unfortunately, before I ever got certified. It was like 4 months later we lost my mom.
Sorry.
It's, again, that double-edged sword, right? Like, it's every time I go, it's very painful because I know I never got to dive with my mom, and that was like, especially in the last decade of her life, that was what their passion is. That was what they lived for, was to go dive. But on the bright side, I now get to take her spot to go with my stepdad. So we do 2 or 3 trips a year where we go usually dive in Belize once a year. We went to St. Lucia last year. We're doing a 2-week trip around the Komodo Islands at the end of the summer this year. We're going on a big dive trip to Komodo. We've gone a whole bunch of places. So I'm lucky that I get to still experience that with him. So that's one of the more important things I get to do these days.
Have you ever dived or thought about diving the Canary?
I haven't been there yet. I'm sure at some point I'll get there, but I haven't been there yet.
That's super unique, reef life and stuff over there. What about the Great Barrier? Ever been to Australia?
I've been there. I went there in, what was that, 2014? Yeah, 2014. I got to snorkel there. I didn't know how to dive at that point, but I did get to
dangerous waters over there, though. I mean, you have to watch your ass.
Yeah.
We got a lot of shark life in Australia, man.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I'd love to get out there and dive. It's just so far away. Like, there's so many places on the other side of the globe that, like, you can do one every, like, at most one a year. But the 20-hour flight, it's not worth it to go for less than 2 weeks. It's like, I've got Komodo this year, and 2026, the end of that summer, we're doing 2 weeks in the Galapagos. And the year after that, we haven't booked it yet, but my stepdad really wants to do Fiji. So it's like, I would love to, but there's only so many times you can take a 20-hour flight and take 2 weeks off work.
Hell yeah, dude! My friend, my good buddy of mine, Ryan Jefferson, lives over in where the hell does he live? Fiji or Tahiti or something like that, man. He literally, it's from right here. He owns a taco restaurant of all things. But every picture he posts looks like something out of a National Geographic. He's a big-time surfer, too. But he posts these pictures on social media, and he's just a regular dude, man. You would think he was some... I don't even know what the hell you think, man. I mean, that region alone is like, whoa, dude, like out of this world, man. I don't even know what you say. It's gorgeous. Everything is gorgeous. Pictures of nothing are gorgeous. Like, it's like, that'd be cool, man. How many continents have you actually traveled to so far?
The only two I'm missing are South America and Antarctica.
Oh shit!
I was supposed to do the coolest trip to the Amazon. I was going to fly into Peru and go down into the Amazon basin in southern Peru. And I was had signed up on a research expedition. There's a place as a research station, and they wanted to go up a new river, like an uninhabited river. We were supposed to do like a 8-day canoe trip up this river, just doing like research on where they could put, like geological research on where they could put a research station that has like all of the flora and fauna and wildlife and everything that, you know, anybody that wants to go research that part of the Amazon basin, they're like, let's get another spot up there that people can go see what's around. Some river, there's no settlements, no human activity, nothing.
Imagine that. The first canoe in today's age, the first canoe to ever paddle up a freaking river, man.
Right. Like, there's probably been like local fishermen that have gone up there hunting and gathering and stuff. Like, you would say, like, you'd still feel like you're the first person ever to be there. Like, yeah, that one got killed by COVID a few times. It was like right when the pandemic was hitting, and it kept getting delayed, and then they would change the entry requirements, and after the fourth time that I had tried to book it, it just fell apart and never happened. So that's another one that, like you said, there's only so many giant 2-week expeditions you can do and still
plenty of life ahead of you, brother.
Run a business, and it's on the list though.
Do you have employees? I'd imagine you would, right? Do you have employees that manage it when you go on vacation? It works out well for you. You've never like had anything catastrophic happen while you've been gone or anything.
Once I had an employee that I lost a lot of animals when she decided just not to show up for work, but was still going to clock in for an 8-hour shift, and yeah, it got real ugly. It was sad. She didn't want to work, but thought she could still clock in. I mean, there's cameras everywhere. I don't know why she thought I wasn't going to notice that, but I did lose some animals. I was on a trip in Belize, and I had lost a few animals on that occasion, but that's really the only time I've ever had a significant issue. Everything else, even you get great employees. I've had amazing employees. I've had so-so employees. Even with the employees that aren't like, oh, this is a great employee, I've never had like, other than that one time, I've never had bad situations or anything that was real upsetting. I've been pretty lucky employee-wise over the years.
I'd imagine you're a pretty good judge of character. I mean, I'd imagine you interview these people well. Do you have a storefront? Like, is there an altitude like location, just a facility?
Nope, just everything's online.
Have you ever thought about it? Has it ever been anything that's ever like crossed your mind to have like an actual?
I mean, it's an idea I've kind of kicked around and thought about, but
never made sense.
It comes back to the saying I said before. I keep expensive lizards in cheap cages, and storefronts generally are the opposite. They're selling you cheap lizards out of expensive cages. Like, my thought's always been, if I want to do that, I don't want to sell cheap lizards that I keep in expensive cages to look good. I want to sell expensive cages with cheap lizards. And, we kind of touched on that. I don't know how to implement that on a large scale basis. I don't live in a place that has a population that I think would support something like that. It's not realistic, so it's never really gotten any serious thought.
How is the reptile hobby community in your area? Do you have I mean, I know there's shows out there in Colorado, but like in your area, is there a strong community? Do you have shows close to you, like super close, like range of you, I guess you would say?
We don't get very many good shows until the All-American show kicked up. Theirs has been really, really good. Before that, we haven't ever had good shows here. We don't have venues. We used to have a couple other venues that we had local show at that did pretty good. But for the most part, the only good convention centers that like could host a quality show won't let live animals in. It's like even the All-American show, it's about an hour south of where I'm at because they had to go kind of out there. And even then, they're in a space that's too small for them. Like, they could do bigger things with that show, but there is no physical space in Denver that will allow it. It's like, we don't have the infrastructure here for a good show set up. There is a pretty good reptile community in Denver. I'm admittedly not very plugged into it. That still comes back to I'm just not very plugged into a lot of local humans in general. I'm just naturally kind of a homebody. I don't go to Herp Society meetings or have like local friends who are breeders. I know some of the local gecko breeders, but I don't have like close friends in that circle. But I don't have a whole lot of close friends that aren't in the gecko breeding world either.
This is what it is. Have you ever thought of traveling to New Caledonia?
Man, that's another one that's on the list. I've had so many ideas. I almost went once when I went to Australia.
It is right now, Australia, right?
It's close. I almost went, but when I went to Australia, it was on a honeymoon. So it was like my wife at the time was very gracious and was like willing to spend 3 days of our 2-week honeymoon trying to make a trip there. And it was just like once I got into the weeds of trying to plan it, it was clear like it's going to double the price of our honeymoon, so I can spend 36 hours trying to find a gecko on this island. Like I wouldn't have had enough time. I wouldn't have had the ability to plan the trip correctly. It wasn't realistic, so I just scrapped the whole idea. And then over the years, I've thought about it, and it's just not an idea that's gotten a lot of traction yet. I've had a lot of people ask, like, well, you did tours to Belize, you should do tours there. And I was like, that sounds like a great idea, but logistically, I did do tours in Africa for a while. I had some contacts.
Really? No shit.
Yeah, I did. I did one. Well, I went several times.
Where exactly did you go?
We flew into Kenya. The whole thing was in Kenya. I think we went to 6 national parks all over Kenya. Yeah, it was an incredible trip. That one was a lot of fun. That was the last one I'd ever done before everything kind of fell apart and I had to quit doing the traveling trips. That's another one. Still got some good friends and good contacts out there that I think I could make that work too.
So what's one more thing about the traveling? What's your dream destination? Where would you go if you could? If price wasn't an issue, logistics weren't an issue, where's your dream location?
I just non-answer every question you give me, I feel like. I'll give you 2 answers. My basic answer, and the most honest in my heart, is my dream destination is wherever I haven't been yet. Like, I want to see everything. I want to go everywhere. So, like, when my kids ask me that, like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? And I always say my favorite place to go is the next place I go. Like, it doesn't really matter where it is. If I haven't been there yet, that's where I want to go next. If I had to really pick one, right now it would still probably be the Amazon. I've always been drawn to the rainforest. Like, I love traveling. I love going everywhere. I've been all over the U.S. I've been to Alaska. I've been to a lot of places, but every time I end up in a rainforest, like, that's what feels best. I still think my favorite place is the Daintree rainforest in Northeast Australia. Like, North Queensland is probably still my favorite place I've been. I would just love to get back there at some point soon. But I haven't been to the Amazon yet, so it feels like... Okay, no, I'm going to change my answer. Sorry. The Amazon's great, and it's like the most well-known rainforest. I want to go, but it's accessible, so it will happen. It's just a matter of logistics, time, and money. Where I think if all of the stuff you said is not an issue, deep into the Congo would be my number one answer. Because it is an incredibly old rainforest. It is largely unexplored, largely uninhabited. And for the purposes of our fantasy world question, it is very, very difficult to access. It is incredibly unsafe. There is not much tourism. But going deep into untouched rainforest in the Congo, like, that would be my top answer if it was possible.
For sure. That's a dangerous one, though, man, for many reasons.
That's what, like, I toy with that all the time, too. Like, I've done some really sketchy traveling. The first time I went to Kenya, like, it was like a 50-50 toss-up. Am I going to have a great trip or lose my kidney and be left in a ditch in the middle of Nairobi? It worked out great, but that was probably the dumbest thing I've ever done, was the first time I went to Kenya. I thought about, like, I bet I could plan a trip to the Congo. I bet I could get contacts and get deep in there, and 50-50 might not ever come back out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, you know what it is, man. Life's all about risks, right? I mean, It's calculated, assessed risks, you know?
Right. And maybe I lost my mom on a routine drive from her house to my house. Like, you might not make it home from this. I think about that all the time.
I remember this now.
Yeah, that's the Flora Fauna you were at. That's why I wasn't at Flora Fauna. It was right before Flora Fauna. Like,
remember this now.
You know, I've had that mindset since before we lost my mom, but that really kind of drove it home of, like, man, I'm gonna go grab some dinner when we're done filming here. I might not make it home from dinner. I might not make it to work tomorrow morning. You never know, man. Life, even if you get to live the full breadth of human experience in a full solid lifespan, it is so goddamn quick. It's so short. It's so, like, I think about now, I'm 37. Like, the good part, the functional, active part of my life is more than half over. I'm more than halfway through the really usable part of my life. I'm at best, at the very extreme end of best, more than a third of the way through my entire life. And I'm well over halfway through the best, most functional years I'm going to have. That's terrifying, man. I barely scratched the surface and I'm halfway done.
Damn, that just hit hard.
Scared. That's why I'm like, maybe I'll go to the Congo someday. If I don't come out, I don't come out. But I tried. That's part of, I've talked about, I have bigger ideas for taking people to Belize. That's the crux of it is, you're like, come with me. Let's go push. Let's go see things. Let's go do things that most humans don't even think they can attempt. Because when you do it, the payoff is so big.
It's huge. No feeling like it, man. When you accomplish something that you thought was impossible at one time, or the notion went through your head that, man, I can't do that. And then you actually do it. There is no feeling like it. I mean, you know that well. I mean, and at the end of the day, I just had a podcast where I was, I went off on a rant about this. Like, there's no rewind button in life, man. And there's very rarely a redo button, right? Like we have to live our lives to our fullest potential at every moment. We may not ever get a second chance. You may not get another opportunity to do better, right? You may not ever happen. You may not, we can't sit around always telling ourselves next time, right? Like, I'm do it next time or do it later. I mean, like you clearly stated, I mean, you could go out to get dinner and not make it home, man. And it's, I'm not a big fan of the camp, like, oh, live every minute like it's your last, because we do have to take our future into consideration to a degree, but we can't let it push us to the point of complacency or immobilize us, where we don't want to do things because of fear of the what if. Damn, man, you messed my whole head up with everything you just said, Brian, because I'm thinking about how short life is, man. I people don't realize how fast. I mean, in a great lifespan, we're talking about, say, 100 years, right? Every woman in my family has lived to 100 years old. And my grandmother is my best friend in this whole world. And as pathetic as that sounds, my grandmother is my best friend.
As someone who never had a close relationship, I tell this to people, so I'm going to interrupt you here because I'm gonna push back on you. I never had a close relationship with any of my grandparents. I still have one living grandparent. I haven't seen her in 2 years. Like, the last time I saw her was at the memorial service for my mom. We don't have a relationship. It's not a bad thing. I just never have. I look at people, like when you say my grandma's my best friend, man, that makes me so jealous in like a positive way. Like, I wish I could say, like, I learned from my grandparents. I love my grandparents like a best friend. Like, I never got to have that. So when you say that doesn't sound pathetic to me at all, man. That sounds like you are so blessed in a way that I never got to be.
Yes, very lucky.
That's amazing.
Very, very, very lucky.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, but
not at all. But I remember her at my age now, right? Thinking about how old she was while she was carrying me in diapers, marching through Cape Cod, because my feet were too hot to walk on the sand, and it's like, now I look at her and she's 85 years old, and I'm like I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack because how old she's gotten and how fast it's been. Like it hits me now, like as a kid, as a child, like I've never viewed life without her. Like my grandma is part of my life. Like I'm always going to have Graham. Like I'm always going to have her. Now, and it feels like the blink of an eye, she's at the point where, I mean, she's not old or ready to die or nothing. She's still perfectly fine. At 85, you wouldn't think she was a day over 60, but reality's kicking in and it's like, damn, she's not going to be here forever. And my life is going to have to go on without her. And then that has me panicking about all the time that's passed by in my life and the things that I've wanted to do, that I've failed to do, the mistakes I've made, the regrets I have.
Yeah.
Like, it really puts things in perspective, man. And I can't go back. I can't just close my eyes and be like 5 years old again. Okay, like I would do this different, this different, and this different. Let's start over. Not happening. Not happening. Not happening. No rewind button. Cannot go back. I cannot go
Yeah.
back in time. I don't know that people realize this. Like I don't know that it's something you can necessarily teach somebody either. It's one of those things that happen in life where I get like those aha moments, like where you're going to be like, oh shit, damn, should have did that. That opportunity might not happen again, or damn, should have did that a little different. And it is, I can talk till blue in the face about missed opportunities and things we should have done and could have done. Well, my point is moving forward to not make those same mistakes, right? Take advantage of every opportunity that comes our way, capitalize on every opportunity that we can. Try your hardest to not take things for granted. These geckos, relationships we make in the hobby, things we learn from people, every second that we have on this planet can lead to something, can contribute to something, can help somebody, can benefit yourself. I mean, there's just, oh man.
Yeah, you got me thinking when you said like you can't live like every moment's your last, because that's not realistic. Like I think a lot about finding a balance. Like you can't live like that. I have to run my life. I have to run a business. I have to, like, my kids got to go to school every day. Like you got to do stuff. But like that's like the overarching idea that I'm so obsessed with is like when I get to the end, I want to be so sure that I found the right balance. Like, and you can't do reckless stuff. Like I did a pretty reckless trip to Kenya one time. Turned out great. If that would have been the end, if it would have gone real bad, I would have looked at it and went, well, my balance was too far this way. Obviously, I ended up bleeding out in a ditch in Kenya at 35 years old. That didn't work out. But I probably would have been okay with having tried. I would rather the balance end too far this way. What I can't stand is the idea that I'm going to get to your grandma's age, look back and go, my balance was way too far over here. But you can't fix it. Like when you get to the end, you can't bring that balance back. Like I would rather end up on this side. I can't live a life where the balance is. I've done that for years. I've gone years in my life where I've woken up and gone, like 3 years just passed and I haven't done anything. I haven't accomplished. I haven't felt like I lived in years. Most of us only get 75, maybe 80 of them if you're lucky. I just wasted 3. That's not like, that's a big percentage. I can't do that.
It's cliche as it is, but people have used the saying and all types of memes and whatnot, but it's like something along the lines like when you're laying on your deathbed, you're not going to regret the things that you did in life that scared you. You're going to regret the things that scared you too much to do. Something like that.
You're not going to regret any of the things you did do. You're going to regret the things you didn't do.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, at all the podcasts I've done so far, none have really done this to me, Brian. You got me all freaking whacked up in the head now, thinking about life and balance and everything else. I mean, and that is what it boils down to, right, brother? Balance.
I've been dealing with some stuff lately. We can talk, you and me, when the camera's not running. I'll give you more details. But man, I've been in this headspace for a while now. I've got a few things going on that I'm looking at. Like I can't go this way. Like I would rather take the risk. I'd rather take the risk. I don't want to get to the end and go, what if? I would rather take the risk and go, I tried and it didn't work, and that made things worse, than get to the end and say, what if? What if I tried?
Absolutely. Better to have tried and failed than never tried at all, right? I mean, that should be one cliche in all of our freaking, our stashes there. All right, so Dan. I said an hour. I apologize, Brian. It's been 2.5. This is what happens when I have good conversations with great people. One last question, and it's kind of not gecko related. On the contrary, it's the opposite. If geckos, and forget that I know the fact about the music thing. Yep. If geckos didn't exist in your life, if altitude exotics and crested geckos didn't exist, what would you be doing today? If it wasn't for music and now, what would you see yourself doing if it wasn't geckos and music? Obviously, I assume the answer would have been the music, but what do you see yourself? What would you do for a living that would make you happy? What would you be content doing for a living?
So let's change the question a bit, since I already answered, like, it would be music.
Yeah.
Right? But let's change it to if the geckos disappeared today, like it was just done for whatever reason, the geckos are done. Like I got to start over.
Much better
I think about that a lot, right? So I think about this a lot because I know, like, I do great with the geckos. I'm incredibly fortunate. I have an amazing life. But I am intimately aware that I sell a luxury product. Nobody buys an $800 lizard when the economy goes to Great Depression levels scary. And without the geckos, I'm a minimum wage overnight warehouse employee. Like, that's my highest calling. I know that. I'm almost 40 with no work experience, no degree, no nothing. Like I'm working at 7-Eleven at 2 a.m. if it's not for the geckos.
You're smarter than that.
I am, but like in the real world, that's what I'm worth. So then that gets me thinking, like, what would I do if this all fell apart? And I think the first thing I would try is advertising. I think I would take a run at trying to land an advertising gig and like pitching myself as like an alternative. I don't have an ad degree. I didn't go to a prestigious school. I don't have a portfolio. I don't have a success story with a company. But I do have a portfolio. If I can get people to sit down and say, let me show you what I have done in my life, I think I could get a job in advertising. That's one that I've put a lot of thought into. The more fanciful one that I have thought about that's a bit less realistic, I think. I have half jokingly, half seriously told a lot of my friends, I love cars, right? We've had several Facebook conversations about it before, I know. I'm a car guy, and I think about sales, like that's what my job is with the geckos. Advertising and sales. That's essentially what it boils down to. So then I think about sales, and I love cars. And I'm like, all right, but I sell these geckos. How would I translate that into selling cars? And I think about I would go to our local Ferrari McLaren dealership here, and I would, I put myself in the world of the kind of people who buy and sell Ferraris, right? So I think, all right, I'm not going to politely call up and ask for the sales manager to please interview me for a job. These are people that buy and sell Ferraris for a living. Maybe I have some stereotypes about who they are, but this is the play that plays out in my head. I'm just going to get a really expensive suit and just walk into that guy's office, shut the door, and sit down. And he's going to look at me and go, get the hell out of me. Who the hell are you? Get out of my office. I'm going to tell him, no. I'm going to tell you a story about what I've done with the last 15 years of my life. And then you're going to hire me to sell Ferraris. That's what's about to happen. And as long as he gives me a little opening to talk, I'm going to tell this guy a story about what I've done selling geckos. And then I'm going to relate it to cars and tell him, look at what I did with the geckos. I'm not good. Like, people go in to buy a Honda Civic. They need a Honda Civic. They need a Honda Pilot. I'm not good at selling somebody what they need. I cannot tell somebody why they should buy my Honda Pilot instead of a Toyota RAV4. That's not the kind of sales that I do. Nobody needs a gecko. Nobody needs an Axanthic. I'm really good at talking people into buying something they want. Everybody wants an Axanthic, and I'm really good. So I'm like, you apply this to cars. I love cars. You think some dude with a big paycheck comes in here and wants a Ferrari? I can close that deal. That's what I've done my whole life.
I bet you could.
Give me a chance.
Watch Fast and the Furious, right? Or not Fast and Gone in 60 Seconds. Nicolas Cage gets all dressed up in the suit and goes to the Ferrari dealership, and he's trying to get the keys, and he's telling the dealer about the car and how to do it. He's like, you just reminded me that.
That's essentially, I would just pretend to be the most arrogant dick ever and walk into the sales manager's office and be like, look, bro, this is what I do. I could sell the hell out of some Ferraris. This is what I do.
Dude, all joke aside, I would agree with you. I would put my last 10 grand on you in a heartbeat, bro. You have taken a pet store level animal and turned it into an extremely successful, elite Ferrari level item, object, right? Like you said it best, man. You convince people to buy luxury items that they don't need, right? And you do it well. You do it very well.
It's not even convincing.
Build a portfolio that I hope you see. I mean, you have acquired very applicable skills over the years to just about any industry you choose. I mean,
right. Like, I think that would be interesting to get into like high end sales, like even like real estate. Like, I don't want to sell like the condo I live in. It's a basic condo in East Denver. Like, I think I would do better in like real estate selling mansions in Aspen. Like, this guy's going to buy a $2 million house in Aspen because he wants a ski lodge. I can get him to buy the one I want him to buy. like he's gonna buy one regardless. Couldn't convince you to go buy a house in Aspen, even if you could afford it. But if you were already shopping for one, I think I would be really good at like explaining to you why this is the right one and why I'm the guy to help you do it. That's the kind of sales, like the sales role. I think
extremely honest. I mean, I think you would do very well at it. You know, God forbid anything happened to geckos.
Yeah, I hope I never have to find out.
Comfortable knowing your kids would eat. I would. I have 100% faith in you. You know,
we'll see.
Cool.
You know, fanciful dreaming that I hope I never have to test in real life, but
God forbid. All right, so guys, we're at 2.5 hours here with Brian, and I feel terribly guilty. I told him I would talk to him for an hour. Keep going. Is there any announcements that you have? Any promotions? The stage is yours. Clearly, everybody knows your Altitude Exotics. Where can they find you? Where can they buy your animals?
Yeah, so the biggest thing coming up is my summer blowout sale. I do a big summer blowout sale every year. At the time we're recording this, which is a little before it's going to come out, I don't have the date set for when it's going to kick off. It will either be
when I know
the second or third Friday in June. It's going to depend on the prep work. I'm like in the middle of, actually was deli cupping geckos. I'm going to get down to some photography here as soon as we hang up. I got 25 geckos deli cupped up to photo. So nice. I'm in the middle of prep work. So the biggest things, follow me on social media, Instagram and Facebook at AE Geckos and Palm Street. Look up Altitude Exotics on Palm Street. I will have Palm Street incorporated. Not the entire summer blowout sale isn't just a Palm Street auction. That is merely one portion of the summer blowout sale. And I've got some exciting news. We're going to have a big, big giveaway on Palm Street. I'm teaming up with the higher-ups at Palm Street to do a really big giveaway for the summer blowout sale. I have an idea of what that's going to look like. I'm excited to tell everybody about it. So definitely follow me on Palm Street and on Instagram. There's going to be a huge sale, website stuff, Palm Street stuff, discounts, rolling. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Guys, stay tuned. Follow him. If you're not, I don't know what stone you've been living under. I don't know what corner closet you've been hiding in. Follow him. Follow the sales. Follow his ads, what he's doing. Listen to him. These are some sales. I've been watching them for years. I mean, if you want to get some, super exclusive animals at some reasonable prices, these sales Brian puts on are the time to do it, man. You're not going to find animals like his anywhere, and you're not going to find prices like he puts on sales anywhere else, at least for the quality of animals. Follow him, check him out. Follow Palm Street. Guys, I appreciate every single one of you. Don't ever forget that you all matter. I don't care if you have one gecko or you have 100. You are all equally important and valuable to this community that we all make up. We cannot exist without each other. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Thanks again for tuning in. Stay weird.